I can't do this anymore, Daniel. Those 5 words, spoken in a quiet conference room at 11 p.m., shattered the careful walls a widowed father had built around his heart for 3 years. What started as a careless joke, "Just marry me and we'll survive work together," had just revealed a truth neither of them could take back. She loved him, had loved him for 2 years, and in that moment, Daniel Brooks realized the person he'd been calling his work friend was the woman he'd been falling for all along, one late night and shared coffee at a time. But could a man who'd already lost everything risk his son's stability for a second chance at love? Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey goes. The fluorescent lights in the Meridian Solutions building hummed their familiar tired song as Daniel Brooks pushed through the revolving door at 7:47 a.m., exactly 13 minutes earlier than required. 13 minutes, the exact buffer he needed to grab coffee from the break room, check his emails, and mentally prepare himself to look like a man who had his life together. He didn't. It was his first day, and the only thing Daniel knew for certain was that he desperately needed this job to work out. Not just work out, he needed it to be perfect, stable, permanent. The kind of job that came with health insurance that covered a 6-year-old's asthma medication without requiring him to choose between inhalers and groceries. The kind of job that wouldn't ask questions when he had to leave early for parent-teacher conferences or when his son's school called because Tyler had another fever. The kind of job that would prove to everyone, his in-laws, his neighbors, his own reflection in the mirror, that he could do this alone. Daniel's shoes squeaked against the polished lobby floor as he made his way toward the elevator bay. The building was one of those modern corporate spaces that tried too hard to look innovative, exposed brick walls that had never seen actual construction, inspirational quotes in sans serif fonts, and enough glass to make you feel perpetually visible. He tugged at his tie, a navy blue number that Tyler had helped him pick out the night before. "This one makes you look like a superhero, Daddy," his son had said, holding it up with the kind of seriousness only a 6-year-old could muster. Daniel had knelt down, eye level with his boy. "Yeah? Which superhero?" "The kind that goes to work and comes home." Tyler's answer had been simple, devastating in its honesty. The memory made Daniel's chest tighten as he stepped into the elevator alongside a handful of other employees, all of them wearing the same first-day combination of professional clothes and barely concealed anxiety. No one made eye contact. Everyone stared at their phones or the ascending floor numbers like they contained the secrets of the universe. Daniel's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from his mother-in-law, Susan. "Tyler ate a good breakfast. Don't worry about us. Focus on your first day. You've got this." He appreciated the encouragement, even if he suspected it came with a subtext of doubt. Susan had been wonderful since Emily died, stepping in to help with Tyler, never asking for anything in return, always present when Daniel's world felt like it was collapsing. But he also knew she worried that he was working too much, spreading himself too thin, trying to be both mother and father to a boy who sometimes woke up crying for the parent who would never come home. The elevator dinged on the 7th floor. Daniel followed the small crowd out into a corridor lined with more motivational posters and frosted glass conference rooms. A cheerful woman with a tablet and a lanyard that read, "Melissa, HR," greeted them with the kind of enthusiasm that suggested either excessive caffeine consumption or genuine love for her job. "Good morning, new hires. Welcome to Meridian Solutions. If you'll all follow me, we're going to start with some orientation in Conference Room C. There's coffee, tea, bagels. Help yourselves." The group shuffled forward like a herd of uncertain cattle. Daniel hung back slightly, his eyes scanning the space. He'd done his research on Meridian Solutions, a mid-sized consulting firm that specialized in business process optimization, whatever that meant. The pay was decent, the benefits were good, and most importantly, they'd hired him despite the gaps in his resume, the year he'd taken off after Emily died, when just getting Tyler to school felt like climbing Everest. Conference Room C was spacious and overly air-conditioned. Daniel grabbed a coffee, black, no sugar, the way he'd learned to drink it during those first terrible months when adding milk seemed like too many steps, and found a seat near the middle of the room, not too eager in the front, not too disconnected in the back. The Goldilocks zone of corporate positioning. That's when he noticed her. She was standing by the bagel table, staring at a plain bagel with an expression of deep existential confusion, like the bagel had personally offended her. She was probably in her early 30s, with dark hair pulled into a professional ponytail that was already showing signs of rebellion, a few strands escaping to frame her face. She wore a gray blazer over a white blouse, and she was currently engaged in what appeared to be a silent negotiation with the cream cheese. Daniel watched as she picked up the knife, approached the bagel, then set the knife down. Picked it up again. Set it down. Picked it up a third time, and this time actually made contact with the cream cheese before apparently deciding the whole endeavor was too complicated and just putting the plain bagel on her plate. Despite everything, the stress, the exhaustion, the weight of starting over, Daniel felt his mouth twitch into something that might have been the beginning of a smile. The woman turned, caught him watching, and her eyes widened slightly in what looked like embarrassed acknowledgement of her bagel crisis. She gave a small shrug, as if to say, "Yeah, I just lost a fight with breakfast," and Daniel found himself doing something he hadn't done in months. He laughed. Not loud, not attention-grabbing, just a quiet chuckle that felt like stretching a muscle he'd forgotten he had. She walked over and took the seat next to him, setting down her sad, naked bagel. "I know what you're thinking," she said, not looking at him, her voice low enough that only he could hear. "Who can't manage cream cheese at 8 in the morning?" "I wasn't thinking that," Daniel replied, surprised to find himself engaging. "I was thinking that bagel looks lonely." "It is. It's a metaphor for my career choices." She glanced at him, and he saw intelligence in her brown eyes, along with the same bone-deep tiredness he saw in his own reflection every morning. "First day? That obvious? You have the look, like you're simultaneously grateful to be here and wondering if it's too late to run." She extended her hand. "Megan Lewis." "Daniel Brooks." He shook her hand, noting the firm grip, the slight calluses that suggested she actually did something with her hands besides type. "And you're not wrong about the running thing. What stopped you?" The honest answer sat in his throat. A 6-year-old who needs health insurance and a father who shows up. Instead, Daniel said, "Rent, student loans, the usual." Megan nodded like this was a perfectly acceptable answer to a question that probably wasn't meant to be answered honestly anyway. "Same. Plus, I've already moved 3 times in 2 years. My houseplants are staging a revolt. I need stability before I become the woman who talks to succulents." "How are the succulents doing?" 2 are thriving. 1 is dead, but I'm in denial about it. The 4th one I'm pretty sure is judging my life choices. She picked up her bagel, examined it, then set it back down. "I'm not usually this weird, I promise. First day nerves make me chatty." "I like chatty," Daniel said, and meant it. There was something disarming about Megan's openness, the way she acknowledged her own awkwardness without apologizing for it. In a room full of people wearing their professional masks, she felt real. Melissa from HR clapped her hands, calling the room to attention. "All right, everyone, let's get started. Welcome to Meridian Solutions, where we optimize the future together." What followed was 3 hours of PowerPoint presentations, policy explanations, and the kind of corporate icebreakers that made everyone simultaneously uncomfortable and bored. They learned about health benefits. Daniel took detailed notes. Vacation policies, Megan whispered, so basically never, when they mentioned the approval process. And the company's core values of innovation, integrity, and impact. The 3 I's, as Melissa called them, with genuine enthusiasm. During a presentation on workplace harassment policies, Megan leaned over and whispered, "Is it harassment if the training video is this boring?" Daniel bit the inside of his cheek to keep from laughing, earning him a disapproving look from the guy in the front row who was taking notes like this was a medical school lecture. At noon, they broke for lunch. The new hires were directed to the company cafeteria, a bright space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Daniel grabbed a sandwich that was trying very hard to be artisanal and found himself scanning the room for a quiet corner where he could check in with Susan about Tyler. "Brooks!" He turned. Megan was waving him over to a table by the window, her own lunch spread before her, a salad that looked like it had been designed by someone who'd never actually eaten vegetables for pleasure. Daniel hesitated. He should really call Susan, make sure Tyler's morning had gone okay, that the new babysitter hadn't called in sick, that his son wasn't sitting in front of the TV eating cereal for lunch because Susan's arthritis was acting up again. But Megan was still waving, and the thought of eating alone, of spending his lunch break managing logistics and worrying, felt suddenly exhausting. He walked over. "I figured we should stick together," Megan said as he sat down. "United front against corporate integration and all that." "Sounds like a strategy." Daniel unwrapped his sandwich, which contained things that might have been roasted vegetables in a past life. "So," Megan said, spearing a cherry tomato with more force than necessary, "what's your story? And before you give me the LinkedIn version, I should warn you I'm excellent at detecting bullshit. Former journalist. We're trained to spot evasion." "Former journalist?" Daniel asked, genuinely curious. "What made you switch to corporate consulting?" "The fact that journalism pays in exposure and existential dread mostly. Also, I got tired of people telling me print media is dead while simultaneously complaining about the quality of news." She popped the tomato in her mouth, chewed, swallowed. "Your turn. What brings Daniel Brooks to Meridian Solutions?" Daniel took a bite of his sandwich, buying time. He'd gotten good at the abbreviated version of his life over the past 18 months, the story that explained without explaining, that answered questions without inviting more. But something about Megan's directness made him want to be more honest than strategic. "I needed a change," he said finally. "Better benefits, more stable hours. I have a son, 6 years old. It's just the two of us, so the stability matters." Megan's expression shifted, something softening around her eyes. "Just the two of you?" "His mom passed away about 18 months ago." The words still felt foreign in his mouth, like he was talking about someone else's tragedy. "Daniel, I'm so sorry." And the thing was, she sounded like she meant it, not the reflexive sorry people offered before changing the subject, but genuine acknowledgement of something terrible. "Thank you." He set down his sandwich, appetite fading. "Tyler's doing okay. He's a great kid. Resilient. We're figuring it out." "That's a lot of pressure, figuring it out alone." "I'm not completely alone. My mother-in-law helps. She's with him now, actually. He stopped, unsure why he was telling the stranger things he usually kept carefully boxed up. "I needed this to work out. This job. That probably sounds desperate. It sounds human." Megan pushed her salad aside, giving him her full attention. "For what it's worth, I think you're going to do great here. You actually took notes during the harassment training. That puts you in the top 5% of competence already." Daniel found himself smiling again. "Set the bar high, don't you?" "I'm a realist. Also, anyone who can handle single parenting can definitely handle corporate bureaucracy. Different kind of chaos, similar skill set." They talked through the rest of lunch, easy conversation that skipped between topics like stones across water. Megan told him about her apartment in the Riverside district, the neighbor who kept pigeons on the balcony, her ongoing battle with a sourdough starter she'd named Frank. Daniel told her about Tyler's obsession with dinosaurs, the way his son insisted on wearing rain boots regardless of weather, the small miracle of finding a good school within their budget. Neither of them mentioned that they were both clearly running from something. Megan, from whatever had burned her out of journalism, Daniel, from the ghost of a life that had ended in a hospital room. But the unspoken understanding hung between them, comfortable as old furniture. When they returned to the conference room for the afternoon session, Daniel felt lighter than he had in months. Not happy. Happiness still felt like a language he was relearning, but less alone. Like maybe this place could be more than just a paycheck and health insurance. The afternoon sessions covered their actual job responsibilities. Both Daniel and Megan were starting as junior consultants in the operations division, which apparently meant they'd be analyzing client workflows, identifying inefficiencies, and proposing solutions. The work sounded interesting in theory, potentially mind-numbing in practice. Their supervisor, a woman named Patricia Chen, who radiated the calm competence of someone who'd survived decades in corporate America, walked them through their first week's schedule. "You'll be shadowing senior consultants, sitting in on client meetings, getting familiar with our methodologies," she explained, her voice steady and assured. "Don't worry about making mistakes. We expect a learning curve. What we value is curiosity, initiative, and the ability to work well with others." She looked directly at Daniel and Megan when she said that last part, and Daniel wondered if their lunchtime bonding had already been reported through some kind of corporate surveillance network. The day ended at 5. though Patricia mentioned that hours would vary depending on client needs and project deadlines. Daniel packed up his welcome materials, a branded notebook, a pen that probably cost 3 cents, and a lanyard he'd never wear, and headed for the elevator. Megan caught up with him in the lobby. "Survived day 1, she said. "That calls for celebration, or at least acknowledgement." "I need to pick up my son," Daniel said, glancing at his watch. "But, yeah, we survived." "Rain check then. Maybe after we survive day 2, we can grab actual food." "That wasn't a sandwich I ate. That was a philosophical question about sandwiches." Daniel laughed. "Deal." They parted ways in the parking garage, Megan heading to her beat-up Honda, Daniel to his slightly less beat-up Ford. As he drove toward Susan's house, Daniel found himself replaying moments from the day. The bagel incident, Megan's easy humor, the unexpected relief of talking to someone who didn't look at him with pity. Tyler was waiting on Susan's front porch when Daniel pulled up, his small body launching off the steps the moment he saw his father's car. "Daddy, Daddy, you're home!" Daniel barely had time to open the door before Tyler crashed into him, all 6 years and 48 pounds of pure joy. He scooped his son up, breathing in the smell of strawberry shampoo and whatever lunch Susan had made. "Hey, buddy, did you have a good day? Grandma and I made cookies, but I saved you 3 because I'm good at sharing now." Tyler's face was serious, like saving cookies was a matter of international importance. "Thank you, T. That was very thoughtful." Daniel carried his son toward the house, where Susan stood in the doorway, smiling. "He was perfect," she said as they approached. "How was your first day?" "It was good." And for the first time in a long time, when Daniel said something was good, he actually meant it. Really good. That night, after Tyler was in bed, a process that involved 3 stories, 2 glasses of water, and 1 lengthy negotiation about whether dinosaurs could have jobs in the modern economy, Daniel sat in his small living room with a beer he was too tired to drink. He thought about Megan, about the easy way they'd fallen into conversation, about how she'd made him laugh without even trying. It wasn't attraction, he told himself. It was just relief. Relief at finding someone who didn't know him as grieving widower Daniel, who didn't handle him with kid gloves or speak in hushed tones like his loss was contagious. It was safe. Just friendship. Nothing complicated. The universe, as it turned out, had other plans. Over the following weeks, Daniel settled into his new role at Meridian Solutions with the kind of focused determination that had gotten him through law school, marriage, fatherhood, and loss. He arrived early, stayed late when Tyler's schedule allowed, and absorbed information like a man who couldn't afford to fail. And through it all, Megan became his constant. They gravitated toward each other naturally, like magnets that had finally found their corresponding poles. Coffee before morning meetings became routine. Daniel liked his black, Megan drowned hers in cream and sugar until it was barely coffee at all. They'd meet in the break room at 8:15, compare notes on whatever project they were working on, and occasionally debate topics that had nothing to do with work. "I'm just saying," Megan argued one morning, stirring her coffee with enough force to create a small vortex. "Pizza is objectively a sandwich." "That's insane," Daniel countered, fighting a smile. "A sandwich requires 2 separate pieces of bread. Pizza is 1 piece folded. At best, it's an open-faced sandwich. A folded pizza becomes 2 layers. 2 layers equals sandwich. By that logic, a taco is a sandwich." "Yes, exactly. You're getting it." Patricia walked past them, carrying her own coffee, and gave them a look that was equal parts amused and exasperated. "Some of us have actual work to do," she said, but her tone was fond. "This is work," Megan called after her. "We're building collaborative relationships through discourse." "Sure you are." These small moments, silly arguments about food taxonomy, shared eye rolls during particularly tedious meetings, the comfortable silence that sometimes fell between them when they were both focused on their screens, became the scaffolding of Daniel's days. They made the long hours bearable, the learning curve less steep, the weight of his responsibilities slightly easier to carry. 3 months in, they were assigned to their first project together, a mid-sized manufacturing client that needed help optimizing their supply chain. It meant late nights at the office, spreadsheets that made Daniel's eyes cross, and enough coffee to fuel a small city. It also meant Tyler needed more childcare. Susan was willing, always willing, but Daniel could see the toll it took on her. She was 68, dealing with her own grief over losing her daughter, and spending long evenings chasing a 6-year-old was exhausting work. "I can find someone else," Daniel told her on a Wednesday evening, picking up Tyler after a particularly brutal 12-hour day. "I can hire a babysitter, maybe look into after-school programs." Susan waved him off, but he could see the fatigue around her eyes. "Nonsense. I love spending time with my grandson. You just focus on your job, Daniel. That's what Emily would want." The invocation of Emily's wants, what she would have wanted, what she would have said, how she would have handled things, had become a regular feature of conversations with Susan. Daniel understood it was her way of keeping her daughter alive, of making decisions she thought honored Emily's memory. But it also felt like pressure, like every choice Daniel made was being measured against a standard set by someone who wasn't here to actually weigh in. He didn't say any of this. Instead, he thanked Susan, bundled Tyler into the car, and drove home, his son chattering about his day while Daniel's mind spun with logistics, deadlines, and a creeping sense of inadequacy. The next morning, he must have looked particularly haggard because Megan took one look at him in the break room and said, "Okay, spill. What's wrong?" "Nothing, just tired." Daniel poured his coffee, hands moving on autopilot. "Daniel, I've known you for 3 months. I can tell the difference between regular tired and my life is falling apart tired. Talk to me." There was something in her voice, concern without pity, directness without judgment, that made Daniel's carefully constructed walls crumble just slightly. "I'm trying to figure out childcare," he admitted, leaning against the counter. "My mother-in-law has been helping, but I can't keep asking her to stay late. She's doing me a huge favor as it is, and these hours are brutal, but I also can't afford to cut back on work. Not yet. Not until I've proven I'm worth keeping around." Megan was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she said, "What if we tag-teamed?" "What?" "The late nights. What if we coordinated so we're not both staying late on the same nights? You take Monday and Wednesday, I take Tuesday and Thursday, and we cover each other's work. Friday we can both try to leave on time, like civilized humans." Daniel stared at her. "You'd do that?" "Daniel, we're on the same project. Your success is my success. Plus, I'd rather work with you than anyone else here. You actually read the reports I write instead of just skimming for keywords." She took a sip of her sugar coffee. "And honestly, I don't have anyone waiting for me at home except Frank, the sourdough starter, and he's currently more liquid than solid, so he's not great company." Something warm and unfamiliar bloomed in Daniel's chest. Gratitude, yes, but also something more complicated. The recognition that someone was choosing to make his life easier without expecting anything in return. It had been a long time since anyone had done that. "Thank you," he said, and the words felt insufficient for what he was feeling. "Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see how many typos I make after 9 p.m. I turn into a grammatical disaster." She bumped his shoulder with hers, gentle and friendly. "We're a team, Brooks. Might as well act like it." They started implementing the schedule that week, and it worked better than Daniel could have imagined. On his late nights, Megan would handle the preliminary analysis and leave detailed notes for him. On her late nights, Daniel would review everything with fresh eyes and compile their reports. They developed a shorthand, an efficiency that came from understanding how the other person thought. Their coworkers noticed. Patricia made a comment during a team meeting about their seamless collaboration. A senior consultant named Marcus joked that they were like a 2-person consulting machine. The attention made Daniel slightly uncomfortable. He'd never been good at being perceived, but Megan seemed to take it in stride. "We're just good at our jobs," she'd say with a shrug, deflecting the praise. But it was more than that, and Daniel knew it. They weren't just good at their jobs. They were good together. They balanced each other. Daniel's methodical analysis complemented Megan's creative problem-solving. Her humor lightened his tendency toward overthinking. His calm steadied her occasional impulsiveness. 4 months became 6. 6 became 9. The seasons changed from summer to fall, and Daniel found himself settling into a rhythm that felt almost sustainable. Tyler started first grade, made a friend named Marcus who was obsessed with Pokemon, and asked fewer questions about why Mommy wasn't coming home. Susan seemed less tired. The projects at work kept coming, and Daniel kept delivering. And through it all, Megan was there. She remembered Tyler's birthday, sending him a card with a T-Rex wearing a party hat that made his son laugh for 5 minutes straight. She knew Daniel's coffee order without asking. She could tell from the way he said, "Good morning," whether he'd had a rough night with Tyler or a problem with his car, or was just running on too little sleep. He learned her patterns too. The way she bit her thumbnail when she was thinking hard about a problem. How she always ordered pad thai for lunch on Thursdays, a ritual she'd started at her old job and refused to abandon. That she hated making phone calls and would volunteer for literally any other task to avoid client calls, even though she was excellent at them when forced. They had lunch together more often than not, sometimes in the cafeteria, sometimes grabbing food from the Thai place down the street, or the sandwich shop that actually understood what sandwiches were, unlike that first-day disaster. During one of those lunches, about 10 months after they'd started, Megan asked about Emily. They were sitting in a small park near the office, eating banh mi and enjoying the mild autumn weather. Daniel had just finished a story about Tyler's attempt to bring a pet earthworm to show and tell, when Megan said, quiet and careful, "You don't talk about her much." Emily. Daniel froze, sandwich halfway to his mouth. In all their conversations, over all these months, they'd somehow managed to avoid this topic. He'd mentioned being a widower that first day, and Megan had never pushed for details, never pried into the wound. "I don't," he agreed, setting down his food. "It's not that I don't want to talk about her, He struggled to find words. "It's complicated." "You don't have to," Megan said quickly. "I didn't mean to, No, it's okay." And surprisingly, it was. "We met in college. She was studying education, I was in business. She was everything I wasn't, outgoing, spontaneous, the kind of person who made friends with strangers in grocery stores. We got married right after graduation, had Tyler a few years later. His voice caught. She was a really good mom." Megan waited, giving him space to continue or stop. "It was ovarian cancer," Daniel said, the clinical words easier than emotional ones. "By the time they found it, it had already spread. She fought for 11 months. Tyler was 4 when she died. Old enough to remember her, young enough that the memories are already starting to fade, and He stopped, breathed. "I don't know how to keep her alive for him without making him sad all the time." "That's an impossible situation," Megan said softly. "Yeah." Daniel picked at his sandwich, not eating. "Her mother thinks I should talk about Emily more. Keep her present in Tyler's life. And she's not wrong, but it's so hard to know when mentioning his mom will help and when it'll just remind him of what he's lost. He's 6. He should be worried about homework and Pokemon cards, not whether it's okay to be happy when his mom is gone." "Is that what you worry about too? Whether it's okay to be happy?" The question landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading outward. "Every day," Daniel admitted. "It feels like betrayal sometimes. Laughing at a joke, enjoying my work, looking forward to things. Emily's gone and I'm still here and His throat tightened. "I don't know how to do this. Any of it." Megan was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I think you're doing better than you know. Tyler's a happy kid. He talks about you like you're his hero. That doesn't happen by accident." "He said that?" "Last week when I ran into you guys at the coffee shop. While you were ordering, he told me his dad is the best dad in the world because you make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs and you always keep your promises." Megan smiled. "For what it's worth, I think Emily would be proud of you, not for being perfect, but for showing up every day and trying your best for your son." Daniel felt something break loose in his chest, some knot of tension he'd been carrying for 18 months. "Thank you," he managed. Thank you." They finished their lunch in comfortable silence, and when they walked back to the office, Daniel felt lighter. Not healed, grief didn't work like that, but seen, understood, less alone. That night, after tucking Tyler into bed, Daniel sat in his living room and thought about Megan's words, about Emily, about what it meant to move forward without forgetting. For the first time in a long time, the guilt was quieter than the gratitude. The holidays arrived with the kind of aggressive cheerfulness that made Daniel tired just looking at the decorations sprouting up around the office. Meridian Solutions went all in on festive spirit. A massive tree in the lobby, garland wrapped around every available surface, and a company party scheduled for mid-December that promised fun, food, and festivities. Daniel had been planning to skip it. Office parties ranked somewhere between unnecessary dental work and standing in line at the DM5 on his list of enjoyable activities. But Megan had other ideas. "Absolutely not," she said when he mentioned skipping. "You're coming. It's mandatory fun, Brooks." "That's an oxymoron." "Yes, and you're going anyway. Besides, I need a buffer between me and Greg from accounting, who gets handsy after 2 glasses of wine." "Then don't drink wine." "I need the wine to tolerate the party. It's a paradox." She gave him a look that somehow managed to be both pleading and demanding. "Come on, for me? I'll owe you." Daniel tried to resist, he really did. But Megan had perfected a particular expression over the past year. Big eyes, slight pout. The visual equivalent of Tyler's "but daddy please" routine. And Daniel was apparently defenseless against it regardless of who deployed it. "Fine," he sighed, "but I'm leaving by 9. Deal. I'll even drive you home so you can drink." "I don't drink much." "You will after an hour of forced caroling. Trust me." The party was held in a rented event space downtown, a converted warehouse with exposed beams and string lights that probably looked industrial chic to whoever planned it, but mostly just reminded Daniel of an expensive garage. He arrived fashionably late, 7:30 instead of the mandated 7, to find Megan already there, nursing a glass of white wine and looking trapped in a conversation with Brad from sales. She caught Daniel's eye across the room, and her expression was pure relief. He made his way over. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic." "Daniel, perfect timing. Brad was just telling me about his timeshare in Cabo." Brad, oblivious to the fact that he was being saved from, launched into an extended description of Mexican real estate investment opportunities. Daniel nodded at appropriate intervals, let Megan excuse them to get food, and followed her to the catering table. "You're my hero," she whispered, loading her plate with items that were trying very hard to be fancy appetizers, but mostly looked confused about their identity. "He's been talking for 20 minutes. I learned things about timeshare law I never wanted to know." "Happy to help." Daniel surveyed the food, selected things that looked least likely to require explanation, and turned to scan the room. The party was exactly what he'd expected. Coworkers loosened by alcohol and holiday spirit, making conversation that would be forgotten by morning. The whole event a corporate ritual everyone participated in, but no one particularly enjoyed. Patricia was holding court near the bar. Marcus was attempting to DJ despite having no apparent musical knowledge, and someone had made the questionable decision to set up a karaoke machine. "This is my nightmare," Daniel said. "Agreed. Want to hide in the corner and judge people?" "That's my second favorite activity." "What's your first?" "Going home." Megan laughed, and they found a table partially hidden by a decorative column. They ate mediocre food, drank mediocre wine, and provided running commentary on their coworkers' questionable dance moves. "I give Marcus a 4 for effort, 2 for execution," Megan said, watching their colleague attempt something that might have been dancing. "You're being generous with the execution score." "I'm feeling charitable. It's the holidays." They were halfway through the evening when Patricia appeared at their table, slightly flushed from wine and whatever conversation she'd been having. "Brooks Lewis, you're not socializing." "We are socializing," Megan protested. "With each other." "That doesn't count. You two are attached at the hip anyway. Branch out, mingle. It's a party." She gestured expansively, nearly hitting a waiter with a tray of bruschetta. After Patricia moved on, Daniel turned to Megan. "Attached at the hip?" "Apparently we've developed a reputation." She didn't sound particularly concerned about it. "Does that bother you?" Megan considered the question, swirling her wine. "No," she said finally. "I like working with you. If people want to talk about it, that's their problem." Something in Daniel's chest warmed at that. Not just the words, but the casual certainty with which she said them. Like their friendship was a fact that required no defense or explanation. The evening wore on. Someone convinced Patricia to do karaoke, resulting in a rendition of Total Eclipse of the Heart that would haunt Daniel's dreams. Greg from accounting did indeed become handsy after his second glass of wine, prompting Megan to hide behind Daniel until Greg moved on to bother someone else. Marcus challenged several people to an impromptu dance-off that no one wanted to participate in. By 8:30, Daniel was ready to leave. But when he looked at Megan, she was smiling, genuinely smiling, relaxed in a way he rarely saw her at the office. So he stayed, ordered another drink he didn't want, listened to her story about her neighbor's pigeon drama, and found himself laughing more than he had in months. At 9:15, Megan checked her watch. "You said you wanted to leave by 9. "Yeah, I did." "But you're still here." Daniel shrugged, surprised to find it was true. "I guess I am." "Is it terrible?" she asked. "Being here?" "No," he said, and realized he meant it. "It's actually okay." Megan's smile shifted into something softer, more private. "Good. I'm glad." They stayed until 10 when the party started winding down and people began making their excuses. Megan drove Daniel home, her car still the same beat-up Honda, now decorated with a small wreath hanging from the rearview mirror that smelled like artificial pine. "Festive," Daniel commented. "Tyler picked it out when I ran into you guys at the store last week. He said it would make my car happy." The thought of Megan and Tyler shopping together, of his son choosing decorations for his co-worker's car, made something in Daniel's chest tighten, his two worlds intersecting. She pulled up in front of his house, a small 2-bedroom rental in a neighborhood that was safe and affordable and exactly the kind of place where people raised kids and had block parties. Daniel could see Susan's car still in the driveway. She'd insisted on staying late so he could attend the party. And lights on in the living room. "Thank you," he said, "for tonight, for making me go." "Thank you for saving me from Brad and his timeshare." Megan smiled. "Same time next year?" "God, I hope not." "Liar, you had fun." And the thing was, he had. Not despite the party, but because Megan had been there, making it bearable, making it more than bearable, making it something he'd actually enjoyed. He climbed out of the car, waved as she drove off, and walked into his house feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time. Content. Tyler was asleep on the couch, Susan reading beside him. She looked up as Daniel entered. "How was the party?" "Better than expected," Daniel said, and left it at that. The new year arrived with the kind of fresh start energy that corporations loved, and Daniel had learned to be suspicious of. Meridian Solutions kicked off January with a company-wide meeting about goals, growth, and synergy, a word that apparently meant something specific in business contexts, but mostly just sounded like corporate white noise to Daniel. He sat in the auditorium beside Megan, both of them nursing coffee and trying to look engaged while their CEO talked about market expansion and quarterly targets. Megan had drawn a small tic-tac-toe grid in the margin of her notebook and kept sliding it toward Daniel during particularly boring sections of the presentation. Daniel won 3 games. Megan won 2. The CEO kept talking. "Kill me now," Megan whispered during a slideshow about optimized workflow paradigms. "Can't. We have a client meeting at 2. "Remind me why we chose this profession?" "Health insurance, student loans, the usual." She snorted, earning them a look from Patricia 3 rows ahead. They both straightened, assumed expressions of professional interest, and waited exactly 45 seconds before Megan passed him the notebook again. This had become their pattern over the past year, small acts of rebellion wrapped in professionalism, moments of levity that made the serious business of consulting feel less like slow suffocation. Daniel had never been the type to goof off at work, to push boundaries or test limits. But with Megan, it felt safe, natural, like he could let himself be something other than serious single dad Daniel who had everything under control. The meeting finally ended. They filed out with everyone else, blinking in the fluorescent hallway light like prisoners emerging from darkness. "Lunch?" Megan asked, already knowing the answer. "Thai place?" "You read my mind." They grabbed their coats and headed out into the January cold, the kind of bitter chill that made Daniel's face hurt and made him grateful Tyler's school was heated to approximately surface of the sun temperatures. The Thai restaurant was a 10-minute walk, which meant 10 minutes of Megan complaining about the cold while refusing to zip her coat properly. "You know what would solve this problem?" Daniel said as she shivered beside him. "Don't say it. Zipping your coat. I look bulky when I zip it all the way. It ruins the line of the outfit. You're going to get pneumonia for the sake of outfit lines." A sacrifice I'm willing to make for fashion. But she zipped the coat anyway, shooting him a look that said she was only doing this under protest. They settled into their usual booth at the restaurant, ordered their usual dishes, pad thai for Megan, green curry for Daniel, and fell into the comfortable rhythm of conversation that had developed over countless lunches. "So Tyler's birthday is coming up," Daniel said, scrolling through his phone calendar. "I'm trying to figure out what to do. He wants a dinosaur-themed party, which I'm fully supportive of, but Susan thinks we should do something smaller, more manageable. What does Tyler want? Dinosaurs, obviously, and to invite his entire first-grade class, which is 23 kids." Megan's eyes widened. 23 6-year-olds? That's not a party. That's a small militia. Exactly what I said. But he's so excited about it. He made a list of all his friends, drew pictures of what the decoration should look like. He wants a T-Rex cake that roars when you cut it, which I don't think is physically possible, but he's very confident it exists. Kids have incredible faith in the logistical capacity of adults, Megan observed. "What are you thinking of doing?" Daniel sighed, rubbing his temples. "Probably something at the house. Rent some tables, get pizza, maybe hire someone to do face painting or something. Keep it simple. Susan offered to help, but I don't want to burden her with that kind of chaos." "What if I helped?" Daniel looked up from his phone. "What?" "With the party. I'm good at party planning. Well, I'm decent at it. Okay, I once planned a party that didn't completely fall apart, and I'm choosing to believe that makes me qualified." Megan leaned forward, warming to the idea. "Seriously, Daniel, you handle the guest list and the location. I'll help with decorations, activities, making sure the chaos stays at manageable levels. It could be fun." "Megan, you don't have to do that. Spending your Saturday wrangling other people's children is not anyone's idea of fun." "Maybe it's mine. Ever think of that?" She said it lightly, but there was something genuine underneath. "Besides, I like Tyler. He's a good kid. And you've been there for me plenty of times, covering my work when I had that family emergency, listening to me complain about my landlord, pretending to care about my sourdough starter's emotional journey. I genuinely care about Frank's journey. Liar. But I appreciate it." She took a sip of her water. "Let me help, please. I promise I won't make it weird or overstep. I just want to help make your kid's birthday awesome." Daniel felt that familiar warmth spreading through his chest again, the one that showed up whenever Megan did something unexpectedly kind. It would be so easy to say yes, to let her into this part of his life, to stop trying to manage everything alone. It would also be terrifying. Letting Megan help with Tyler's party meant crossing a line they'd carefully maintained for over a year. Work friends, lunch buddies, people who made each other's professional lives better. That was safe territory. But birthday parties were personal. Birthday parties were family. And Daniel had worked very hard to keep those worlds separate, to protect Tyler from getting attached to people who might not stay. But when he looked at Megan's face, open and hopeful and completely free of pity, he found himself saying, "Okay, yeah, that would be really great, actually." Her smile could have powered the entire restaurant. "Excellent. We're going to make this the best dinosaur party in the history of first grade. Tyler's going to have stories for years." They spent the rest of lunch planning, Megan pulling up Pinterest boards on her phone, and Daniel trying not to think too hard about how domestic this felt. The two of them coordinating details about his son's birthday like it was the most natural thing in the world. Over the next 3 weeks, the party planning became a regular feature of their conversations. Megan sent him links to dinosaur decorations at 2 in the morning with messages like, "Daniel, inflatable T-Rex. Thoughts?" Daniel responded with feasibility assessments and budget constraints. She found a bakery that could make a cake that didn't roar, but did have a T-Rex head that popped up when you lifted the lid. He secured enough folding tables to seat 23 children plus parents. Tyler, when Daniel told him Miss Megan from work was helping with the party, had been thrilled. "The nice lady with the funny car?" "That's the one, buddy. She's the best. Can she come to my party? Like, as a guest, not just helping?" Daniel had not considered this angle. Sure, if she wants to." "She'll want to. Everybody wants to come to dinosaur parties." Tyler's logic was unassailable, so Megan became not just a helper but an official guest, which somehow made the whole thing feel even more significant. Susan had raised her eyebrows when Daniel mentioned it, but said nothing, which was somehow worse than if she'd actually commented. The party was scheduled for a Saturday in late February. Daniel had spent the previous evening transforming his modest living room into what Tyler declared was the most awesome dinosaur land ever. Green streamers hung from the ceiling like vines. Inflatable dinosaurs lurked in corners, and an impressive balloon arch in shades of green and brown framed the doorway. Megan arrived at 9 in the morning, 2 hours before guests were due, carrying boxes of supplies and wearing jeans and a sweater that said, "I'm a nervous Rex," with a picture of an anxious-looking dinosaur. Tyler took one look at her shirt and dissolved into giggles. "Miss Megan, you're silly." "I'm festive," she corrected, setting down her boxes. "And I brought face paint, so I hope you're ready to become a T-Rex." "Can I really?" "That's literally why I'm here." Daniel watched them interact. Megan crouching down to Tyler's level, his son's animated explanations of his dinosaur knowledge. The easy way she listened, like everything he said, was fascinating. Something in his chest pulled tight. Susan arrived shortly after, took in the scene with a knowing look, and immediately recruited Megan to help set up the food table. Daniel found himself relegated to hanging one last banner while the two women worked together in his kitchen, their voices carrying through the house. "He talks about you quite a bit," Susan was saying. "Both of them do, actually." "All good things, I hope." "Very good things. Daniel doesn't let many people into their lives, not since, well, he's protective of Tyler, but he clearly trusts you." There was a pause. Daniel stopped pretending to adjust the banner and strained to hear. "I care about them both," Megan said quietly. "I hope you know that. I'm not trying to, I know this is complicated and I don't want to overstep or make anyone uncomfortable." "You're not," Susan said, her voice gentle. "You're good for him. For both of them. I can see it. I just hope—" She stopped, and Daniel could imagine her choosing her words carefully. "I hope he can see it too." Daniel's hand stilled on the banner. What exactly was Susan implying he should see? That Megan was a good friend? He knew that. That she was helpful? Obviously, that she made him laugh and his days better and his life feel less like an endless series of responsibilities? Yeah, he knew that too. The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of the first guest, and Daniel shook himself out of his thoughts. There was no time for introspection. 23 six-year-olds were about to descend on his house, and he needed all his focus just to survive the next 4 hours. The party was controlled chaos. Children ran through the house making dinosaur noises, face paint got on every available surface, and someone's parent had thoughtfully brought cupcakes despite Daniel specifically requesting no additional sugar, resulting in a mid-party energy spike that turned the living room into something resembling a prehistoric mosh pit. Through it all, Megan was incredible. She organized games, settled disputes over toy dinosaurs, wiped tears when Tyler's friend Marcus fell and scraped his knee, and somehow kept the whole event from devolving into complete anarchy. She moved through the chaos with the same competence she brought to work projects, anticipating problems before they happened and solving them with efficiency and humor. Daniel watched her orchestrate a game of Dinosaur Dinosaur T-Rex, a prehistoric variation on Duck Duck Goose, and felt something shift in his chest. Not just gratitude, something bigger, more complicated, something that felt dangerously close to— No. He shut that thought down immediately. This was friendship, good friendship, the kind where people helped each other and cared about each other's families and wore silly t-shirts to children's birthday parties. That was all. It had to be all. Because the alternative, admitting that somewhere between shared lunches and late-night work sessions and coffee before meetings, he'd started feeling something more than friendship for Megan Lewis, was too complicated to consider. Daniel's life didn't have room for romance. He had Tyler to think about, a job that demanded everything he had, a mother-in-law who still set places for Emily at family dinners. He couldn't add feelings to that equation. So he didn't. He focused on the party, on Tyler's joy, on making sure no one got seriously injured, and if his eyes kept finding Megan in the crowd, kept watching the way she laughed with the kids or helped a shy child join the games, well, that was just appreciation for a friend's help, nothing more. The cake was a massive success. When Tyler lifted the T-Rex head and it popped up with a recorded roar, The kids went absolutely wild. Daniel cut slices while Megan distributed them, the two of them working in seamless coordination that had parents commenting on how well they worked together. "You two must have done this before," one mother said. "First time, actually," Megan replied cheerfully. "We just make a good team." By the time the last guest left at 3:30, Daniel's house looked like a dinosaur had actually rampaged through it. Wrapping paper covered every surface, cake frosting decorated the carpet, and at least 3 balloons had popped during the festivities, their rubber corpses draped over furniture. Tyler, sugar-crashed and happy, had fallen asleep on the couch, still wearing his T-Rex face paint. Susan gathered her things. "I'll leave you two to clean up. Call me if you need anything, Daniel." She hugged him, whispered, "She's lovely," in his ear, and left before he could respond. Daniel stood in his destroyed living room with Megan, both of them surveying the damage. "Well," Megan said finally, "that was something." "That's one word for it." Daniel started gathering paper plates. "Thank you, really. I couldn't have done this without you." "Sure you could have. It just would have been more stressful and less organized." She grabbed a trash bag and started collecting wrapping paper. "But for what it's worth, I had a great time. Your kid is pretty awesome." "He really is." Daniel glanced at Tyler, still zonked out on the couch. "He had the best day. That's because of you." "It's because he has a dad who cares enough to throw him a party with 23 screaming children. That's love, Daniel." They cleaned in comfortable silence, the kind that had become familiar over the past year. Daniel washed dishes while Megan tackled the living room. She found lost toys, deflated some of the more aggressive decorations, and somehow managed to get most of the cake frosting out of the carpet. By 5 o'clock, the house looked almost normal again. Tyler was still asleep, and Daniel had ordered pizza for dinner, the adult kind with vegetables and reasonable cheese quantities. "Stay?" he asked as Megan gathered her coat. "For pizza? It's the least I can do after you spent your entire Saturday managing chaos." Megan hesitated. Daniel could see her calculating, weighing something in her mind. Then she smiled. "Yeah, okay, but I get to pick the movie, and I'm warning you now, I have terrible taste in films." "Worse than Tyler's dinosaur documentaries?" "So much worse." They ate pizza on the couch while Tyler slept in his room. Daniel had carried him upstairs around 5:30 and watched a romantic comedy that was exactly as terrible as Megan had promised. But it was also funny and easy and normal in a way that made Daniel's chest ache with how much he wanted more of this. More nights like this. More easy companionship, more Megan in his life, in his home, part of his small family. The credits rolled. Megan stretched, yawning. "I should get going. Early morning tomorrow, and Frank needs feeding." "How is Frank?" "Still more liquid than solid. I think I'm going to give up and start over with a new starter. Maybe name this one something less disappointing, like Success, so I can tell people I'm having success with sourdough." Daniel laughed. "I'll walk you out." At the door, Megan turned to face him. In the porch light, her face was soft, open. "Today was really great, Daniel. Thanks for letting me be part of it." "Thank you for wanting to be part of it." The words felt inadequate for what he was feeling. Gratitude and something more. Something he wasn't ready to name. Megan reached out, squeezed his hand once. "See you Monday?" "Coffee at 8:15. "Wouldn't miss it." She walked to her car, waved once before getting in. Daniel watched her drive away, then closed the door and leaned against it, his hand still warm from where she'd held it. This was getting complicated. Monday arrived with the kind of dreary rain that made everyone in the office miserable. Daniel shook water out of his hair as he entered the break room at 8:12, 3 minutes early to their usual meeting time. Megan was already there, looking tired but pleased with herself. "Guess what?" "What?" "Frank is dead. Long live Success." "You actually started over?" "I did, and this time I followed the directions instead of just winging it." She poured her sugar coffee with the enthusiasm of someone who'd already had 3 cups. "Also, Tyler sent me a thank you text. Well, you sent it, but he told you what to say, right?" "Every word. He wanted me to tell you that you're the best party person ever, and also very nice." "That might be the greatest compliment I've ever received." Megan's smile was genuine, touched. "He's a sweet kid." He asked if you could come over for dinner sometime. I told him I'd ask you, but obviously there's no pressure. I know spending time with other people's kids isn't. I'd love to. Daniel stopped mid-ramble. Yeah? Yeah. When works for you guys. They settled on Friday. Casual, low pressure, just dinner. Daniel told himself it was no different than grabbing lunch together, just at his house with his son present. Totally normal friend behavior. He told himself this repeatedly over the next 4 days, right up until Friday evening when he found himself stress cleaning his kitchen for the third time while Tyler set the table with an intensity usually reserved for NASA launches. Does Miss Megan like broccoli? Tyler asked, adjusting a fork with millimeter precision. I don't know, bud. We'll find out. What if she doesn't? What if she hates all vegetables and thinks we're weird for having them? Then we'll know she has excellent taste because vegetables are objectively terrible. Daniel ruffled his son's hair. Relax, T. It's just dinner. But it didn't feel like just dinner. It felt significant in a way Daniel couldn't quite articulate, like he was introducing two parts of his life that he'd kept carefully separated, and once they merged, there'd be no going back to the clean boundaries he'd maintained. Megan arrived at 6:30 with a bottle of wine and a container of cookies. I made these, she announced, handing the cookies to Tyler. They're chocolate chip, and I can confirm success the sourdough starter was not involved in their creation. Tyler accepted them with the gravity of receiving a state honor. Thank you, Miss Megan. Do you want to see my room? I cleaned it and everything. I would love to see your room. Daniel watched them disappear upstairs, Tyler's voice carrying down as he explained his elaborate dinosaur setup. He finished the dinner prep, trying not to think about how right this felt, how easy it was to have Megan in his space. Dinner was spaghetti, Tyler's favorite, and it was chaotic in the best way. Tyler talked nonstop about school, his friends, the injustice of bedtimes. Megan listened with genuine interest, asked questions, and told stories about her own childhood that had Tyler giggling into his pasta. And then the pigeon flew into my apartment, she was saying, and I couldn't catch it, so I called my neighbor, who brought a fishing net. A fishing net? Tyler's eyes were huge. A fishing net for a pigeon in an apartment. It was chaos. We eventually got it out, but not before it pooped on my laptop. Ew! Tyler dissolved into laughter. Daniel found himself relaxing, the anxiety that had plagued him all week fading. This was good, easy. Megan fit into their little family unit like she'd always been there. After dinner, Tyler convinced Megan to play dinosaurs with him, which involved elaborate storylines and sound effects, and Megan doing a surprisingly good Velociraptor impression. Daniel cleaned up the kitchen, listening to their play, feeling something warm and terrifying settle in his chest. When Tyler's bedtime rolled around, he insisted Megan help with the routine. She read him 2 stories, negotiated the water situation, and handled the 5 more minutes bargaining with the skill of a seasoned diplomat. She's really good at this, Tyler murmured as Megan left the room and Daniel took over for final tuck-in duties. She is. Do you think she could come over more? Like, a lot more? Daniel's heart squeezed. Maybe, buddy. If she wants to. She wants to, I can tell. Tyler yawned, fighting sleep. She looks at us the same way Mommy used to, like we're her favorite people. Daniel froze. What do you mean, T? But Tyler was already asleep, his breathing evening out into the steady rhythm of childhood dreams. Daniel stood there for a long moment, his son's words echoing in his head. Then he went downstairs to where Megan waited and found her looking at framed photos on the mantel. Pictures of Emily, of Tyler as a baby, of a family that no longer existed in the same form. She turned when she heard him. He's a really amazing kid, Daniel. Yeah, Daniel's voice was rough. He is. And you're an amazing dad. I hope you know that. I'm trying. He moved closer, drawn by something he couldn't name. Megan, His phone rang. Susan's number. Daniel's stomach dropped. She never called this late unless something was wrong. I need to take this, he said, and Megan nodded understanding. Susan? Everything okay? Daniel, I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm at the ER. Susan's voice was strained. It's nothing serious, just some chest pains they want to monitor, but I wanted to let you know in case I'm coming. Daniel was already grabbing his keys. Which hospital? St. Mary's, but really, you don't need to. I'm coming. 20 minutes. He hung up, turned to Megan. I have to go. Susan's in the hospital. Would you mind staying with Tyler just until I know what's happening? Of course. Go. Don't worry about anything here. Daniel grabbed his coat, hesitated at the door. Megan, we'll talk later. Just go take care of your family. He went. The ER waiting room had the special kind of fluorescent purgatory lighting that made everyone look half dead. Daniel found Susan in a curtained area hooked up to monitors, looking small and tired. You didn't have to come, she said, but her relief was obvious. Of course I came. Daniel pulled up a chair. What happened? Probably nothing. Some indigestion, tightness in my chest. The doctor wanted to run tests to be safe. She patted his hand. How was dinner with your friend? Susan, we can talk about that later. Let's focus on, I'm fine, Daniel. Humor an old woman. How was dinner? So while they waited for test results, Daniel told her about the evening. Tyler's excitement, Megan's easy integration into their routine, the way it had all felt so natural. Susan listened with a knowing smile. She's good for you. She's a good friend. Daniel, Susan's voice was gentle but firm. I loved my daughter more than anything in this world. Losing her nearly destroyed me. But she's gone, sweetheart. And you're still here. Tyler's still here. And you both deserve to be happy. I am happy. You're surviving. That's different. She squeezed his hand. It's okay to let someone in. Emily would want that. She'd want you to love again. It's not like that with Megan. We're just friends? Susan raised an eyebrow. Is that why you stress cleaned your kitchen 3 times before she came over? Why Tyler talks about her constantly? Why you light up when you mention her name? Daniel opened his mouth to protest, but nothing came out. I see the way you look at her, Susan continued, and I saw the way she looked at you and Tyler tonight when I stopped by to drop off those toys Tyler left at my house. That woman loves you both. The question is, do you love her back? The question sat between them, huge and unavoidable. Did he love Megan? The truth was, Daniel had been carefully not asking himself that question for months now, because once he acknowledged it, once he put a name to these feelings, everything would change. The safe friendship they'd built would become complicated, risky, real. But Tyler's words came back to him. She looks at us the same way Mommy used to. And Susan's, you both deserve to be happy. And his own heart, whispering what he'd been trying not to hear. Yes, you love her. I don't know what to do with that, Daniel said finally. Start by being honest with yourself, then maybe be honest with her. Susan smiled. Life's too short for maybe, sweetheart. Trust me on that. The doctor returned with test results. Indigestion, nothing serious, go home and rest. Daniel drove Susan back to her house, made sure she was settled, then sat in his car for 10 minutes before driving home. His house was quiet when he entered. Megan was on the couch, reading a book, her shoes kicked off and feet tucked under her. She looked up when he came in. Everything okay? Yeah, false alarm, indigestion. Daniel hung up his coat. Sorry for making you stay so late. Don't apologize. I'm just glad Susan's all right. Megan stood, gathering her things. Tyler didn't wake up. I checked on him twice. He's out cold. Thank you. Really. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been here. Called a neighbor. Found a solution. You're good at that. She moved toward the door, and Daniel found himself stepping into her path. Megan, wait. She stopped, looked up at him. In the dim living room light, her eyes were dark, unreadable. I need to tell you something, Daniel started, then stopped. Because what was he going to say? I think I'm falling for you, but I'm terrified, and I don't know if I'm ready, and my life is complicated. You can tell me anything, Megan said softly. You know that. But Daniel's courage failed him. Just thank you. For tonight. For everything. You're a really good friend. Something flickered across Megan's face, too quick to read. Yeah, she said. Friends. That's what we are. She left, and Daniel stood in his empty living room, hating himself for his cowardice. The next few weeks passed in a strange tension. Daniel and Megan maintained their routine, coffee at 8:15, lunch together, late nights coordinating project work. But something had shifted. Daniel found himself hyper-aware of her presence, of every casual touch, every shared laugh, every moment that felt like it could mean something more. He caught himself watching her in meetings, noticed the way she bit her thumbnail when concentrating, how she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was frustrated. Small things he'd seen 1,000 times before but which now felt significant, weighted with meaning he wasn't ready to examine. Megan, for her part, seemed unchanged. Friendly, professional, exactly the same as she'd always been. Which somehow made it worse, because it meant Daniel was alone in this shifting awareness, this growing realization that somewhere along the way, Megan Lewis had become essential to his happiness. They got assigned to a new project, a difficult client with impossible demands and a deadline that made Patricia wince when she handed them the brief. It meant long hours, late nights, the kind of work that tested both competence and patience. It also meant a lot of time alone together in conference rooms. One Wednesday night, working late after Daniel had arranged for Tyler to have a sleepover at his friend Marcus's house, they sat in conference room B surrounded by laptops, documents, and the detritus of working dinners. It was nearly 11. The office was empty except for them and the cleaning crew working their way through the floors below. Megan was explaining something about supply chain optimization, gesturing with her pen, and Daniel was trying to focus on her words rather than the way the lamplight caught in her hair, or how tired she looked, or how much he wanted to tell her to go home and rest. "Are you even listening?" she asked, and Daniel realized he'd completely zoned out. "Sorry, long day. Long week." She set down her pen, rubbed her eyes. "We should probably call it. We're not going to solve this tonight, and we're both exhausted." "Yeah, okay." But neither of them moved. The silence stretched between them, comfortable and charged at the same time. Outside the window, the city glittered with lights. Inside the conference room, Daniel felt the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on him. "Daniel," Megan said quietly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are we okay? You and me?" The question caught him off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, things feel different lately. Since dinner at your place. I can't tell if I did something wrong or if I'm imagining it, or—" She stopped, looked at him directly. "Did I overstep? With Tyler? With being at your house?" "No, God, no." Daniel leaned forward, needing her to understand. "You didn't do anything wrong. You were perfect. You are perfect. It's just—" "Just what?" This was it. The moment. He could retreat, make an excuse, keep everything safe and uncomplicated. Or he could be brave, honest, risk everything for the possibility of something more. Daniel took a breath. "It's just that I think I'm—" His phone buzzed. Tyler's name on the screen. At 11 p.m. Daniel's heart stopped. He answered immediately. "Tyler, what's wrong?" "Daddy, I don't feel good." His son's voice was small, scared. "My tummy hurts really bad and I threw up and Marcus's mom says I should come home." "I'm coming right now, buddy. 10 minutes, okay? Can you hang on for 10 minutes? "Okay." Tyler sounded miserable. Daniel was already packing his laptop. "I'm sorry," he said to Megan. "I have to go, obviously. Do you need help?" "No, I've got it. I'll see you tomorrow." He practically ran to his car, drove to Marcus's house, collected his pale and miserable son, and spent the rest of the night dealing with what turned out to be a stomach bug. By morning, Tyler was feeling better, but Daniel was exhausted, covered in various bodily fluids, and no closer to having told Megan the truth. The universe, it seemed, was conspiring against his honesty. The stomach bug turned into a week-long saga that involved Daniel missing 3 days of work, Susan bringing over homemade soup despite Daniel's protests that she should rest after her hospital scare, and Tyler developing very specific opinions about which cartoons were acceptable viewing during illness recovery. Megan covered for Daniel at work without being asked. She handled his client meetings, updated Patricia on his projects, and sent him daily text updates that were both professional and personally encouraging. "Tyler's going to be fine. Kids are resilient. Also, I told the Morgan client that you had a family emergency and they were very understanding. Take care of your boy." When Daniel finally returned to the office the following Monday, Exhausted but relieved that Tyler was back to his normal dinosaur-obsessed self, he found his desk organized, his emails sorted by priority, and a fresh coffee waiting with a note that said, "Welcome back. Don't die. M." He found her in the break room at 8:20, 5 minutes late to their usual meeting time. "You're late," she said without looking up from her phone. "I had to drop Tyler at school. He insisted on explaining the entire plot of the movie he watched, while sick to his teacher, which took 15 minutes. Sounds important. Megan finally looked at him and her expression softened. "How are you? You look exhausted." "I am exhausted. Parenting a sick kid is like running a marathon while someone throws up on you intermittently." Glamorous, since she handed him the coffee she'd made. "This is for you. I figured you'd need the extra caffeine." Daniel took the cup, their fingers brushing briefly. The touch sent electricity up his arm, which was ridiculous. They'd touched hundreds of times before. This shouldn't feel different, but it did. Everything felt different now. "Thank you," he said. "For the coffee. For covering my work. For the texts. For everything. That's what friends do." The word friends landed with particular emphasis, and Daniel couldn't tell if he was imagining the slight edge to it. They settled into their usual spot by the window, and Megan caught him up on everything he'd missed. A new client project, Patricia's announcement about quarterly reviews, Greg from accounting's latest inappropriate behavior at the coffee machine. Normal office gossip delivered in Megan's usual wry tone. But Daniel kept thinking about that interrupted conversation in the conference room. "It's just that I think I'm..." What had he been about to say? What would he have said if Tyler hadn't called? The truth was, he knew exactly what he'd been about to say. And the fact that he'd been interrupted felt less like bad timing and more like a reprieve. A chance to reconsider, to remember all the reasons why confessing feelings for Megan was a terrible idea. Except he couldn't think of any good reasons anymore. Only fears. The days blurred into weeks. March arrived with unpredictable weather and a workload that had everyone at Meridian Solutions stretched thin. Daniel and Megan fell back into their rhythm, but the unspoken thing between them grew heavier, more present. Daniel caught her watching him sometimes during meetings, her expression thoughtful and slightly sad. He wondered what she saw. A grieving widower still in love with his dead wife? A single dad too complicated for romance? A coward who couldn't admit what he felt? All of it was probably true. One Friday afternoon, Daniel was reviewing quarterly reports when his phone rang. The school. His stomach immediately dropped. Calls from Tyler's school were never good news. "Mr. Brooks? This is Principal Martinez. Tyler's fine, but there was an incident on the playground. He got into a fight with another student. We need you to come pick him up." A fight. Tyler, who cried during sad parts of Disney movies and apologized to furniture when he bumped into it, had gotten into a fight. Daniel made it to the school in 12 minutes, probably breaking several traffic laws in the process. He found Tyler sitting in the principal's office, his small face streaked with tears and dirt, a bruise forming on his cheek. "Tyler." Daniel crouched in front of his son. "What happened?" "He said..." Tyler's voice broke. "He said, I don't have a mom, and that makes me weird. And I pushed him, and then he pushed me, and then I hit him, and..." The rest dissolved into sobs. Daniel pulled his son into his arms, fury and heartbreak warring in his chest. "Okay, buddy, it's okay. We'll figure this out." Principal Martinez explained the situation with professional neutrality. The other boy, a second grader named Justin, had been teasing Tyler about his family situation. Tyler had reacted physically. Both boys were getting a one-day suspension, school policy for fighting regardless of circumstances. Daniel wanted to argue that his 6-year-old son had been defending himself against cruel taunts about his dead mother, but he also knew Tyler had broken rules. Actions had consequences, even when the actions came from a place of pain. He took Tyler home, called Susan to let her know what happened, and spent the afternoon trying to help his son process feelings that were too big for his small body. Anger at the other boy, sadness about Emily, confusion about why some kids had 2 parents and he only had 1. "Am I weird, Daddy?" Tyler asked as Daniel tucked him into bed that night, earlier than usual because emotional exhaustion was still exhaustion. No, buddy, you're not weird. You're perfect exactly as you are. Your family just looks different from some other families, and that's okay. Different isn't bad. Different is just different. I miss Mommy. The words hit Daniel like a physical blow. Tyler didn't talk about Emily often anymore. Daniel had thought maybe his son was forgetting, moving on in the way young children could, but grief didn't work like that. It hid, waiting for moments like this to surface. I know, T. I miss her too, every single day. Does Miss Megan know about Mommy? The question surprised him. Yes, I told her. Does she think I'm weird because I only have one parent? No, she thinks you're amazing. She told me so. Tyler was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, I wish Miss Megan could be my mom. Daniel's breath caught. Tyler, not like replace Mommy. I know nobody can replace Mommy, but like have a mom and remember Mommy too. Marcus has a stepmom, and he says it's nice because he has more people to love him. Tyler looked up at Daniel with eyes too wise for 6 years. Don't you want more people to love you, Daddy? Daniel couldn't speak. His throat was too tight, his eyes burning. Think about it, Tyler said with the seriousness of a tiny philosopher, then rolled over and closed his eyes. Daniel sat there for a long time after his son fell asleep, turning those words over in his mind. Don't you want more people to love you? The answer was yes. Of course, yes. He'd been alone for so long, carrying everything by himself, pretending he was fine with the isolation because he had to be. But the truth was, he was tired. Tired of doing everything alone, of having no one to share the weight, of coming home to an empty house after putting Tyler to bed. And if he was being completely honest, he didn't just want more people to love him. He wanted Megan to love him. He wanted to love her back. Actually, that wasn't quite right. He already did love her. He'd probably been in love with her for months and just been too scared to admit it. The realization should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like relief. Like finally acknowledging something his heart had known for a while, but his head had been too afraid to accept. Daniel pulled out his phone, stared at Megan's contact information. He could text her, tell her he needed to talk, set up a time to have the conversation he'd been avoiding. But this felt too important for text, too significant for careful planning. If he was going to do this, finally be honest about what he felt, it needed to be in person. Tomorrow, he decided. He'd tell her tomorrow. Except tomorrow was Tyler's suspension day, which meant Daniel stayed home. And Sunday was Tyler's soccer game, which ran long because of rain delays. And Monday, a crisis erupted with the Morgan client that required all hands on deck. By Tuesday, Daniel's courage had rebuilt itself into nervous determination. He was going to tell Megan how he felt. Today, after work, in the conference room where they'd spent so many late nights, he would finally say the words he'd been holding back for months. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Daniel checked his watch approximately 700 times. He rehearsed different versions of the conversation in his head. Megan, I need to tell you something. Too formal. So, funny story, I'm in love with you. Too flippant. These past 2 years have meant everything to me. And somewhere along the way, you became the most important person in my life besides Tyler. Too much? Maybe too much was okay. Maybe after all this time, Megan deserved too much. At 4:30, Daniel sent her a text. Can you stay late tonight? Need to talk about something, not work-related. Her response came immediately. Everything okay? Yeah, just need to talk. Conference room B at 7? Perfect. Daniel spent the next 2.5 hours in a state of barely controlled anxiety. He confirmed with Susan that she could watch Tyler late. He reviewed his talking points for the 1,000th time. He changed his shirt because the first one had sweat stains from nervousness. At 6:45, he headed to conference room B, the same room where they'd worked late so many times, where he'd almost told her his feelings before Tyler's call interrupted. The symmetry felt right. Megan was already there, sitting at the table with 2 cups of coffee, still in her work clothes but with her blazer draped over the chair back and her hair down from its usual ponytail. She looked tired but beautiful, and Daniel's heart did something complicated in his chest. Hey, she said as he entered. I brought coffee. Figured we might need it. Thanks. Daniel sat across from her, accepted the cup, tried to figure out how to start. Megan saved him the trouble. Daniel, before you say whatever you need to say, I need to tell you something. Okay. She took a breath, and Daniel noticed her hands were shaking slightly. I'm leaving Meridian Solutions. I gave my notice yesterday. My last day is in 3 weeks. The words hit him like cold water. What? Why? I got an offer from a competitor. Better pay, better position, better opportunities for advancement. It's a good move for my career. She wouldn't meet his eyes. I wanted to tell you in person before the official announcement goes out tomorrow. Daniel's mind was reeling. Megan was leaving. In 3 weeks, she'd be gone from his daily life, from their morning coffees and shared lunches and late-night work sessions. The thought was unbearable. I don't understand. You never mentioned looking for other jobs. I thought you were happy here. I am, but I can't. She stopped, breathed. This is a good opportunity, Daniel. I need to take it. There was something in her voice, something that didn't quite match her words, like she was trying to convince herself as much as him. Is this about us? The question came out before Daniel could stop it. Megan's eyes snapped to his. What? This job, leaving, is it because of... He gestured between them, unable to articulate what us even meant when they'd never actually discussed it. There is no us, Daniel. Her voice was quiet but firm. We're friends, co-workers. That's all we've ever been. That's not true. The words came from somewhere deep and desperate. Megan, that's not true and you know it. Don't. She stood up abruptly. Don't do this. Not now. Then when? Daniel stood too, moving around the table. You're leaving in 3 weeks. If not now, when am I supposed to tell you that? Tell me what? She turned to face him, and he saw tears in her eyes. What do you want to tell me, Daniel? This was it. The moment he'd been building toward for months, maybe years. He could retreat, let her leave, keep everything safe and uncomplicated and sad. Or he could be brave. Daniel chose brave. That I'm in love with you, he said. The words tumbled out rough and honest. I'm in love with you, Megan. I have been for a long time, and I've been too scared to say it because my life is complicated and I have Tyler to think about, and I wasn't sure I deserved to be happy again. But you make me happy. You make everything better, and the thought of you leaving, of not seeing you every day, of losing you... His voice broke. I can't do it. I can't lose you. Megan stared at him, tears now falling freely. You can't say that. Why not? It's true. Because it's not fair. Her voice rose with emotion she'd clearly been holding back. You can't tell me this now, after 2 years of being just friends. 2 years of me loving you and watching you keep me at arm's length and convincing myself I was okay with it. And now, when I finally accepted that you'll never see me as anything more than a coworker who helps with your son's birthday parties, you want to tell me you love me? Daniel felt like he'd been punched. You love me? Of course I love you. The words exploded out of her. I've been in love with you since approximately 6 months after we met, when you stayed late to help me fix a presentation, even though you had to pick up Tyler. I've loved you through every coffee, every lunch, every late night working on projects. I've loved watching you be an amazing father, loved how you make me laugh, loved that you see me as more than just the person who can't figure out cream cheese. She was crying openly now, and Daniel wanted to reach for her but didn't know if he was allowed. I love you so much it physically hurts sometimes, Megan continued, her voice breaking. But you kept everything so carefully professional, so friendly, and I thought I could handle being your friend, being part of your life in whatever way you'd let me. But it's killing me, Daniel. It's killing me to love you this much and know you don't. I do. Daniel closed the distance between them in 2 steps. Megan, I do. I love you. I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner. I'm sorry I wasted so much time being scared. But I love you. Please don't leave. It's not that simple. Why not? Because you have a son. A son who lost his mother and doesn't need me coming into his life and then potentially leaving if this doesn't work out. Because we work together and office relationships are complicated. Because I've already accepted this job and given my notice and Tyler asked if you could be his mom. Megan stopped mid-sentence. What? Last week, after the incident at school, he told me he wished you could be his mom. Not to replace Emily, he was very clear about that, but to have a mom and also remember his first mom. And I realized he's been braver than me this whole time. He's 6 years old and he already knows that loving someone new doesn't erase the people we've lost. It just means we have more love in our lives. Daniel took her hands and she didn't pull away. You said it's not fair that I'm telling you this now. You're right, it's not fair. I should have told you months ago. I should have told you that first day when you couldn't manage the cream cheese. I should have told you at Tyler's party when I watched you with all those kids and realized you were already part of our family. I should have told you every single day for the past 2 years. Daniel, I love you, Megan Lewis. I love your terrible taste in movies and your sourdough drama and the way you make everything better just by being there. I love how you are with Tyler, how you remembered his birthday, how you've never once made me feel like my life was too complicated or my baggage too heavy. I love your laugh and your intelligence and the way you argue that pizza is a sandwich even though you're objectively wrong. A sound escaped her that was half laugh, half sob. And I know I'm asking for a lot, Daniel continued. I'm asking you to take a chance on a widowed single dad with a 6-year-old and a life that's messier than most. I'm asking you to risk your heart on something that could be complicated and difficult. But I'm also promising that if you give me a chance, I will spend every day making sure you know how loved you are, how essential you are, how you've saved me in ways you don't even know. Megan was crying so hard she could barely speak. You're an idiot. I know. 2 years, Daniel. 2 years I've been waiting for you to see me. I saw you. I've always seen you. I was just too scared to do anything about it. And now, you're not scared anymore? I'm terrified, but I'm more scared of losing you than I am of trying. He squeezed her hands. Please don't take that job. Please stay. Not just at Meridian Solutions, but with me, with us. Give me a chance to prove that this is real. For a long moment, Megan just looked at him, tears streaming down her face. Then she whispered, I never actually accepted the other offer. I told them I needed time to think about it. Hope flared in Daniel's chest. Why? Because even though I was trying to leave, trying to protect myself from loving you anymore, I couldn't actually say yes to leaving. Every time I tried to imagine not seeing you every day, not having our morning coffees, not being part of Tyler's life, her voice broke. I couldn't do it. Then don't. Daniel, what if this doesn't work? What if we ruin what we have? What if it does work? What if this is the thing we've both been too scared to reach for? He pulled her closer. Megan, we've already been in a relationship for 2 years. We just haven't been brave enough to call it that. You're my best friend, my partner in everything that matters. The only thing that's going to change is that I get to kiss you now. You want to kiss me? I've wanted to kiss you for approximately 18 months. That's very specific. It was the office Christmas party. You had that green dress and you laughed at something Patricia said, and I suddenly couldn't think about anything except what it would feel like to kiss you. A small smile broke through Megan's tears. I wore that dress on purpose. I was trying to get your attention. You've had my attention since the day you fought with that bagel. It was a very aggressive bagel. It was. Daniel reached up, brushed tears from her cheeks with his thumbs. Megan, I love you. Please tell me I haven't completely destroyed everything by waiting this long to say it. She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for something. Whatever she found must have satisfied her because she whispered, I love you too. I've loved you for so long I don't remember what it feels like not to love you. So you'll stay? I'll stay. But Daniel, we need to be smart about this. Slow. Tyler needs to come first, and we can't just... He kissed her. After 2 years of wanting, of denying, of carefully maintained professional distance, Daniel Brooks kissed Megan Lewis in Conference Room B at 11 minutes past 7 on a Tuesday evening. And it was everything. She tasted like coffee and tears and coming home. Her hands came up to grip his shirt, pulling him closer, and he wrapped his arms around her like he could keep her there forever through sheer force of will. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Megan laughed. So much for taking it slow. We've been taking it slow for 2 years. I think we've earned one impulsive moment. Fair point. She rested her forehead against his. What do we do now? Now we figure it out. Together. One day at a time. What about Tyler? How do we tell him? Tyler already knows. He's 6, but he's not blind. He's been campaigning for you to be part of the family for months. And Susan? Susan told me 3 months ago that I was an idiot if I didn't tell you how I felt. Her exact words. Megan pulled back slightly. Everyone knew except us? I think we knew. We were just scared to admit it. She kissed him again, softer this time. I'm still scared. Me too, but I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. They stood there in the empty conference room, holding each other, and for the first time in 2 years, Daniel felt like he could breathe fully, like some weight he'd been carrying had finally lifted. We should probably go home, Megan said eventually, though she made no move to leave his arms. Probably. Daniel didn't move either. People are going to talk. Office gossip is brutal. Let them talk. Patricia is going to have opinions. Well, Patricia already has opinions. She told me last month that I was being deliberately obtuse about my feelings for you. Megan laughed. Did everyone have a meeting about us except us? Apparently. He kissed her forehead. But they were right. I was being an idiot. I'm done being an idiot. I'm going to hold you to that. Please do. They finally separated, gathered their things, turned off the lights. As they walked to the parking garage together, Daniel took her hand. It felt natural, right? Like something they should have been doing all along. Come over this weekend? He asked as they reached her car. For real this time. Not as my coworker or Tyler's party planner or my friend. As my... He paused, testing the word. As my girlfriend. Megan's smile could have lit the entire parking garage. I would love to come over as your girlfriend, though I should warn you I come with demands. Such as? Tyler gets final approval. If he's not on board with this, we take a step back. He's going to be thrilled. But okay, what else? We tell people at work, I'm not hiding this, but we also maintain professional boundaries at the office. Agreed. And you have to let me help, really help. Not just with work or birthday parties, but with the hard stuff too. The late nights and the sick days and the moments when you're overwhelmed. You have to let me in all the way. Daniel pulled her close again. That's not a demand, that's a gift. Yes, to all of it. Okay then. She kissed him once more, quick and sweet. I'll see you tomorrow. Coffee at 8:15? Wouldn't miss it. He watched her drive away, then sat in his own car for a long moment, processing everything that had just happened. He told Megan he loved her. She loved him back. She was staying. They were doing this. Terror and joy warred in his chest in equal measure. He pulled out his phone, texted Susan. I told her. Her response came immediately. And? And she loves me too. We're together. Really together. Finally, Emily would be so happy for you, sweetheart. The text made his eyes burn. He'd been so afraid that moving on, loving someone new, would somehow betray Emily's memory. But Susan was right. Emily had loved him enough to want him to be happy. She'd loved Tyler enough to want him to have a complete family. She wouldn't want them frozen in grief forever. Daniel drove home with his heart feeling lighter than it had in years. Tyler was already asleep. Susan had texted that he'd gone down early, exhausted from soccer practice. Daniel paid her, thanked her, watched her knowing smile as she left. He checked on his son, standing in the doorway of Tyler's room and watching him sleep. His little boy, who'd been through so much, who'd lost so much, but who still had the courage to ask for more love in their lives. We're going to be okay, T, Daniel whispered. All of us. We're going to be more than okay. Tyler stirred slightly, smiled in his sleep, and Daniel felt his heart overflow with love for this brave, beautiful child who taught him that hearts could expand rather than break, that loving someone new didn't erase the people who came before. Daniel went to bed that night and, for the first time in 2 years, fell asleep easily, his dreams full of possibility and hope, and a future that looked nothing like the one he'd imagined, but everything like the one he needed. Daniel woke the next morning to Tyler jumping on his bed with the enthusiasm of someone who'd had 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep and zero awareness of appropriate wake-up times. Daddy, it's Wednesday. That means library day at school, and I need to return my dinosaur book, but I can't find it. And also, can we have pancakes? Daniel groaned, checked his phone. 6:15. Tyler's internal alarm clock had no respect for the concept of sleeping in. Buddy, the library book is on your bookshelf. And yes, we can have pancakes, but you need to give me like 5 minutes to become a functional human first. You have 3 minutes. I'm very hungry. Tough negotiator. Daniel sat up, rubbing his eyes. His first thought was of last night, of Megan's tears and her confession, and the kiss that had changed everything. For a moment he wondered if he'd dreamed it, but no, his phone showed a text from her sent at 6:03 a.m. Good morning. Still can't believe last night was real. Coffee at 8:15? We should probably talk about how to handle today. Daniel smiled, typed back. It was real. I have the happiness hangover to prove it. 8:15 sounds perfect. He made pancakes while Tyler provided a running commentary on everything that had happened at school yesterday, which apparently included a lengthy dispute over whether Stegosaurus or Triceratops was superior, Tyler firmly in the Stegosaurus camp, and a girl named Emma who could do a cartwheel, and Tyler thought that was pretty cool, I guess. So remember Miss Megan? Daniel said as casually as he could while flipping a pancake shaped vaguely like a brontosaurus. Tyler's head snapped up. Yeah, is she coming over again? Can she, please? Actually, I wanted to talk to you about Miss Megan, about her maybe coming over a lot more, like being part of our family more. Like how? Daniel took a breath. This was harder than he'd anticipated. Well, you know how you have friends at school? And some friends are just friends you play with sometimes. And some friends are really special friends you want to spend lots of time with. Like me and Marcus. Exactly like you and Marcus. Well, Miss Megan is my really special friend, and I was thinking that maybe she could be more than just a friend. Maybe she could be my girlfriend. Tyler processed this with the seriousness of a Supreme Court judge. Would she still be nice to me? Yes, buddy, she'd still be nice to you. Actually, she'd probably be around even more to be nice to you. And she wouldn't try to replace Mommy? The question hit Daniel in the chest. No, T. Nobody could ever replace Mommy. Mommy will always be your mom and we'll always love her and remember her. But having Miss Megan around doesn't change that. It just means we have more people to love. Does that make sense? Tyler nodded slowly. Then, can I ask her about dinosaurs whenever I want? I'm sure she'd love that. And will she still wear funny t-shirts? Probably. Okay. Tyler returned his attention to his pancakes. Then I think it's good. You smile more when Miss Megan is here. I like when you smile. Daniel's throat tightened. Yeah? Yeah. You should smile more, Daddy. Mommy would want you to smile. Out of the mouths of 6-year-olds came wisdom that adults spent years in therapy trying to access. Daniel walked around the table and hugged his son, tight and grateful. You're pretty smart. You know that? I know. Emma said I'm the smartest boy in class. But she also said Connor is the smartest, so I think she's confused. Daniel laughed, finished making breakfast, and got Tyler ready for school with a lightness in his chest that felt foreign and wonderful. He dropped Tyler off with an extra long hug that made his son squirm and complain that dads weren't supposed to be mushy in front of other kids. Then he drove to work, parked in his usual spot, and felt his heart rate accelerate as he walked into the building. Today, everything was different. Today, Megan wasn't just his coworker and friend. Today, she was his girlfriend, and he had no idea how to navigate that in a professional setting. He found her in the break room at 8:13, 2 minutes early. She was making coffee with more focus than the task required, and when she saw him, her face broke into a smile that made his stomach flip. Hi, she said. Hi. Daniel wanted to kiss her, but wasn't sure about the protocol. They were at work. Other people could walk in any second. Megan seemed to read his mind. I've been standing here for 10 minutes trying to figure out what the rules are now. Me too. This is weird, right? We've been working together for 2 years and now suddenly I don't know how to act around you. Very weird. Daniel poured his coffee, hyper aware of how close she was standing. For what it's worth, Tyler approves. I asked him this morning. Megan's whole face lit up. Really? What did he say? He wanted to know if you'd still be nice to him and if you'd still wear funny t-shirts. When I said yes to both, he gave his blessing. Oh, and he said I smile more when you're around. He's observant. He's 6 going on 40. Daniel glanced at the door, then made a decision. He leaned over and kissed her cheek, quick and chaste. Good morning, by the way. Good morning. She was blushing, which Daniel found adorable. So I've been thinking about the work thing, how we handle this here. And I think we should tell Patricia first. Get ahead of any gossip, make sure we're following whatever protocols exist. Then maybe tell the team at the next meeting. Keep it simple and professional. That sounds reasonable? Also, I think we should maintain boundaries here. No kissing in the break room, minimal personal stuff during work hours. I don't want anyone to think we're unprofessional or that our relationship affects our work. Agreed. Though Daniel was already mourning the loss of break room kisses he'd barely gotten to experience. But outside of work? Megan's smile turned mischievous. Outside of work, you're all mine. The possessiveness in her tone made heat pool in Daniel's stomach. I liked the sound of that. They were interrupted by Marcus from their team walking in, cheerfully oblivious to the tension he was disrupting. Morning, you two? Ready for the Peterson meeting? I heard they're bringing complaints about our last recommendations. Looking forward to it, Daniel lied, and the moment passed. They fell back into professional mode, discussing the meeting strategy, but Daniel was acutely aware of Megan's presence beside him in a way that felt new and electric. The day proceeded in a strange duality. Professionally, everything was the same. Meetings, emails, client calls, the usual rhythm of consulting work. But personally, everything had shifted. Daniel caught himself watching Megan during the Peterson meeting. Noticed the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was building to a point, how her eyes sparked when she was defending their recommendations. She caught him staring once and gave him a look that clearly said, "Focus, Brooks." But her eyes were smiling. They met with Patricia at lunch, closing the door to her office for privacy. Their supervisor looked between them with an expression that suggested she already knew exactly why they were there. So, Patricia said, leaning back in her chair, I'm guessing this isn't about the Morgan project. Not exactly, Daniel started. We wanted to let you know that Megan and we've started dating, Megan finished. We're dating, as of last night. We wanted to inform you before it became office gossip, and to make sure we're following proper procedures. Patricia's smile was knowing. About time. You're not surprised, Daniel observed. Daniel, I've been watching you two dance around each other for 18 months. I'm not surprised. I'm relieved. The tension was starting to affect team dynamics. She pulled out a file. That said, we do have policies. You'll need to sign some paperwork acknowledging the relationship, and I'll need to make sure you're not directly supervising each other or creating conflicts of interest. But given that you're both junior consultants on the same level, I don't foresee issues. They spent 20 minutes filling out forms that felt simultaneously important and absurd. Relationship disclosure agreements, acknowledgement of professional conduct standards, a section about what to do if the relationship ended that made Daniel's stomach twist because he couldn't imagine ending things with Megan now that they'd finally begun. Congratulations, Patricia said as they finished. I mean that sincerely. You're both good people, and you work well together. Just don't make me regret being supportive by engaging in public displays of affection in Conference Room B. Megan blushed scarlet. We would never... I have eyes, Lewis. I know exactly which conference room you two prefer for late-night work sessions. Patricia's expression was amused. I'm happy for you, both of you. Now get back to work. They escaped her office, made it halfway down the hallway before dissolving into slightly hysterical laughter. She knows about the conference room, Megan whispered. She knows everything. I'm convinced she has cameras hidden in the ceiling tiles. That's terrifying. That's Patricia. The rest of the week passed in a blur of adjustment. They told their immediate team, who responded with varying degrees of, finally, and we had a betting pool going. Apparently Greg from accounting had won $50 by correctly predicting they'd get together in Q1. Daniel and Megan developed a routine. Professional at work, with only the occasional shared glance that held more meaning than words. But after hours, when Tyler was asleep or at Susan's, they made up for lost time. Dinners at Daniel's house or Megan's apartment, long conversations about everything and nothing, kisses that started soft and turned desperate, hands tangling in hair and breath coming fast. We should slow down, Megan whispered one night on Daniel's couch, though she made no move to create distance between them. Probably, Daniel agreed, kissing her neck in a way that made her gasp. This is the opposite of slowing down. I'm aware. They'd set boundaries. No sleepovers yet, not until they figured out how to handle that with Tyler. No rushing into anything that would disrupt the careful balance of Daniel's life. But within those boundaries, they explored 2 years of suppressed want with the intensity of people who'd been starving and finally found sustenance. Tyler adapted with the flexibility of childhood. Megan came to dinner twice a week, helped with homework, played elaborate dinosaur games that involved the entire living room becoming various prehistoric periods. He started calling her Meg without being prompted, a nickname that made her eyes suspiciously shiny the first time he used it. Susan's reaction was more complicated. She was happy for them. She said so repeatedly, but Daniel also noticed a new sadness in her eyes sometimes. Like watching him move forward meant acknowledging that Emily was truly gone, that life continued even after devastating loss. I'm not trying to replace her, Daniel told Susan one evening when he picked up Tyler. I hope you know that. I do know that, sweetheart, and Emily would love Megan. She'd appreciate that you found someone who makes you laugh again, who's good with Tyler. Susan paused, choosing words carefully. It's just hard sometimes, seeing you build a new life. It reminds me that I can't, that Emily's gone and I'm still here and the world just keeps moving forward whether we're ready or not. Daniel hugged her, this woman who'd lost her daughter but still showed up every day to help raise her grandson. You're part of this new life too. You always will be. I know, I'm just having a moment. They happen sometimes. She pulled back, smiled. Now, tell me about Megan's apartment. Tyler said she has plants that she talks to? She has many plants with names and distinct personalities, according to her. She's perfect for you. The weeks turned into a month, then 2. Spring arrived properly, with actual warmth instead of just theoretical spring. Daniel and Megan fell into patterns that felt both new and ancient, like they'd been doing this forever instead of just 8 weeks. But underneath the happiness, Daniel felt a growing anxiety. Everything was going too well. His experience had taught him that when life felt perfect, disaster was usually waiting around the corner. The disaster arrived on a Tuesday in late April. Daniel was in a client meeting when his phone buzzed with a call from Tyler's school. He ignored it. He was presenting recommendations, couldn't step out. But then it buzzed again and again. He excused himself, stepped into the hallway, called back. Mr. Brooks, this is Nurse Jennifer. Tyler collapsed during PE. We've called an ambulance. You need to get to Children's Hospital right away. The world tilted. Daniel's vision narrowed to a pinpoint. Collapsed? What do you mean collapsed? He lost consciousness during running exercises. He's awake now, but very disoriented. The paramedics are with him. We need you at the hospital. Daniel was already running for the elevator. I'm coming. Tell him I'm coming. He barely remembered the drive to the hospital. His hands shook on the steering wheel. His mind raced through worst-case scenarios. Heart problems, brain tumors, epilepsy, things he'd never considered because Tyler was healthy, Tyler was fine, Tyler was 6 years old and shouldn't be collapsing during PE. He called Susan from the car. She answered on the first ring, and he could barely get the words out. Tyler's at Children's Hospital. He collapsed at school. I don't know what's wrong. I'm on my way. Daniel, breathe. I'm sure it's nothing serious. Kids faint sometimes. It could be dehydration or low blood sugar or... I can't lose him. The words came out broken. Susan, I can't lose him too. You won't. You won't. I'm coming. Just get to the hospital. He made it in 15 minutes, probably breaking multiple laws. Found the emergency room, gave Tyler's name to the desk nurse, and was directed to a curtained area where his son lay on a hospital bed, looking small and scared, and so much like Emily, it made Daniel's chest crack open. Daddy! Tyler reached for him, and Daniel was there, gathering his son into his arms. Hey, buddy, I'm here. I've got you. What happened? I don't know. We were running, and then I felt weird. And then I woke up, and everyone was scared, and the ambulance came, and... Tyler was crying now, frightened and overwhelmed. It's okay. You're okay. The doctors are going to figure out what happened, and we're going to fix it. I promise. A doctor appeared, introduced herself as Dr. Shah. She was young, competent-looking, with kind eyes that Daniel desperately needed to trust. She explained that they were running tests, blood work, EKG, possibly an MRI. They were checking for cardiac issues, metabolic problems, neurological concerns. Each word was a small knife in Daniel's heart. He called work, told Patricia he had a family emergency and wouldn't be back today, possibly not tomorrow. She told him not to worry about it, just take care of his son. He called Megan next. She answered on the first ring. "Hey, Tyler's in the hospital." His voice broke on the words. "He collapsed at school. They're running tests. I don't know what's wrong. I'm scared, Megan. I'm so scared." "What hospital?" "Children's. But you don't have to." "I'm already leaving. I'll be there in 20 minutes. You have the Peterson presentation at 3? "Daniel." Her voice was firm. "I'm coming. Marcus can handle Peterson. You need me, and I'm coming." She hung up before he could argue, and Daniel felt something inside him settle slightly. He wasn't alone in this. Whatever was happening, he didn't have to face it by himself. Susan arrived first, her face pale with worry. She took one look at Tyler and burst into tears, which set Tyler crying again, which made Daniel's own control crumble. They sat together in the ER bay, a small unit of grief and love and terror, waiting for answers. Megan appeared 40 minutes later, still in her work clothes, breathing hard like she'd run from the parking garage. She took in the scene: Daniel's tear-stained face, Susan's shaking hands, Tyler's scared eyes, and didn't hesitate. She came straight to Daniel, wrapped her arms around him, and he collapsed into her, finally letting himself fall apart. "He's going to be okay," she whispered into his hair. "He's going to be fine. You don't know that. I know he's strong. I know he has you. And I know whatever this is, we'll handle it together." Susan watched them, and Daniel saw something shift in her expression. Not jealousy or resentment, but recognition, acceptance. Seeing that Megan wasn't taking Emily's place but creating her own. They waited for hours. Tests were run. Specialists were consulted. Tyler was poked and prodded and so brave that it broke Daniel's heart. Megan held Daniel's hand when the fear got too big. Susan talked to Tyler about everything except why they were there, distracting him with stories and gentle conversation. Finally, Dr. Shaw returned with another doctor, a cardiologist named Dr. Martinez. They had answers. "Tyler has a condition called vasovagal syncope," Dr. Shaw explained. Basically, his body overreacted to the physical stress of running, causing his blood pressure and heart rate to drop suddenly, which led to fainting. It's relatively common in children, not usually dangerous, though it can be frightening. Relief flooded through Daniel so intensely he felt dizzy. "So it's not his heart? Not a tumor? Not anything life-threatening? No. We'll want to monitor him, teach him to recognize warning signs, possibly adjust his activity levels. But this is very manageable." Daniel's knees went weak. Megan's hand tightened around his. "However," Dr. Martinez continued, "we did find something else in the blood work. Tyler's iron levels are quite low. Severe anemia, which likely contributed to the fainting. We'll need to start him on supplements and investigate the cause." More tests. More waiting, but not cancer. Not heart failure. Not the nightmare scenarios that had been running through Daniel's head for 6 hours. They kept Tyler overnight for observation. Megan had to leave for work the next morning, but she stayed until 10 p.m., helping Tyler with the hospital dinner he didn't want to eat, convincing him that the pulse oximeter on his finger was like a cool robot part. Before she left, she pulled Daniel aside. "You okay?" "I aged about 10 years today, but yeah, I'm okay." He kissed her forehead. "Thank you for coming, for being here, for everything. Where else would I be?" She said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "He's yours, which means he's mine too. That's how this works." After she left, Susan said quietly, "She's really something." "Yeah, she is." Emily would have liked her. It was the first time Susan had said anything like that, and Daniel felt tears burn his eyes again. "You think so?" "I know so. Emily always said she wanted you to find someone who loved you as fiercely as she did, someone who would love Tyler like their own. Megan does both." Susan smiled, sad and genuine. "I think it's time I stopped holding on to what was and started embracing what is." They released Tyler the next afternoon with iron supplements, dietary recommendations, and instructions to follow up with pediatric cardiology. The fainting was manageable, they said. With proper precautions and monitoring, he could live a completely normal life. Daniel drove his son home, hyper-aware of every breath Tyler took, every word he said. The fear hadn't completely left. He suspected it never would. That's what happened when you loved someone. You lived in constant awareness that you could lose them. But he also felt grateful. Grateful Tyler was okay. Grateful for Susan's support. Grateful for Megan, who dropped everything without hesitation. Grateful for second chances. That weekend, Megan came over for dinner. Tyler, fully recovered and delighted with the attention his hospital stay had garnered, insisted on telling her every detail of his experience approximately 14 times. And then they put this thing on my finger that turned red, like a laser. But Daddy said it wasn't a laser, it was measuring my heartbeat, which is basically the same thing. Basically, Megan agreed solemnly. After Tyler was in bed, Daniel and Megan sat on the porch, sharing a bottle of wine and watching the neighborhood settle into evening quiet. "I've been thinking," Daniel said. "Dangerous activity." "Serious thinking." He turned to face her. "This week, when Tyler was in the hospital, you didn't hesitate. You just showed up. And I realized that you've been showing up for us, for me and Tyler, since the beginning. Before we were even together, you were there. Where else would I be? That's my point. You keep saying that like it's obvious, but it's not. Most people wouldn't." He stopped, trying to find the right words. "I've been so focused on taking things slow, on protecting Tyler, on making sure we don't move too fast. But this week showed me that you're not some external addition to our lives. You're already part of our family. You have been for a while." Megan was quiet, waiting. "What I'm trying to say, very badly, is that I love you. I've told you that. But I need you to know that Tyler loves you too. And I know that you love both of us. And maybe it's time we stop pretending this is casual or new or something we need to be careful about." "Daniel, what are you saying?" "I'm saying move in with us." The words came out in a rush. "Not tomorrow, not next week. But start staying over more. Keep clothes here. Make this place yours. Let's stop dividing our lives into separate spaces and just be together. Really, together." Megan stared at him. "Are you sure? That's a big step. And Tyler asked me yesterday when you were going to live with us. His exact words were, Meg should just stay here all the time because then she wouldn't have to drive home when she's tired." "He said that?" "He did. So what do you say? Will you move in with us?" Megan's eyes were bright with tears. Yes, I'll move in with you, with both of you." Daniel kissed her then, deep and sure, tasting salt from her tears and feeling something in his chest unlock. This was right. This was what he'd been afraid to reach for, but now that he had it, he couldn't imagine letting it go. They sat on that porch until midnight, making plans and dreaming about a future that looked nothing like Daniel's past, but everything like what he needed. And for the first time since Emily died, Daniel felt like he wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living, really living, and it was beautiful. Megan moved in gradually, the way spring arrived, not all at once, but in small increments that accumulated into transformation. A toothbrush appeared in Daniel's bathroom, then a drawer of clothes. Her coffee mugs migrated to his kitchen cabinets. Her books found homes on his shelves, mixing with his business texts and Tyler's dinosaur encyclopedias, until it was impossible to tell where one person's collection ended and another's began. Tyler treated the whole thing like Christmas extended over several weeks. Each time Megan brought another box, he'd insist on helping unpack, providing commentary on every item. "Why do you have so many plants, Meg?" "Because I'm convinced I can keep them alive if I just try hard enough." "Daddy kills plants. He killed a cactus once." "In my defense," Daniel called from the kitchen where he was making dinner, "that cactus was already dying when I got it." "It was fine, Daddy. You just forgot to water it for like a year." Megan laughed, and the sound filled the house in a way that made Daniel's chest feel too small to contain all the happiness trying to fit inside it. By early June, the transition was complete. Megan's apartment lease ended, her furniture merged with his, and the house that had been just Daniel and Tyler's became theirs. Their home. Their family. Work-adjusted, too. Daniel and Megan maintained their professional boundaries during office hours, but everyone knew. Patricia assigned them to separate projects to avoid any appearance of favoritism, which meant they actually saw less of each other during the day. But that made coming home together even sweeter, comparing notes about their respective nightmares, supporting each other through difficult clients, celebrating wins. The office gossip had died down after the initial excitement. They were just Daniel and Megan, the couple from operations who worked well together and seemed genuinely happy. Greg from accounting occasionally made inappropriate comments that Megan shut down with devastating efficiency. Marcus started a new betting pool about when they'd get engaged, which Patricia shut down with threats of HR intervention. Life developed a rhythm that felt sustainable in a way Daniel's previous existence never had. He wasn't just surviving anymore, moving through days on autopilot and adrenaline. He was present, engaged, happy in a way that didn't feel guilty or stolen. But happiness, Daniel was learning, didn't mean the absence of challenges. It just meant facing those challenges with someone beside you. The first real test came in July, on what would have been Daniel and Emily's 9th wedding anniversary. He'd been dreading the date for weeks, unsure how to handle it. Should he acknowledge it, ignore it? He'd never had to navigate an anniversary with a new partner before, and there was no guidebook for how to honor your dead wife while living with your current girlfriend. Megan solved the problem by bringing it up first. "Next Tuesday is your anniversary with Emily," she said one evening while they were cleaning up after dinner. Tyler was in the living room, engrossed in a nature documentary about pterodactyls. Daniel's hands stilled in the soapy water. "Yeah, it is. I thought we could do something. The three of us. Maybe visit her grave. I've never been, and I think—" She paused, choosing words carefully. "I think it would be good. For all of us. If you're comfortable with that." Daniel turned to look at her, this woman who somehow always knew what he needed before he did. "You want to visit Emily's grave?" "I want to acknowledge that she was important. That she still is important. That she's part of Tyler's story and part of your story, which makes her part of our story too." Megan dried a plate with more focus than necessary. "But if that's too weird, or if you'd rather go alone—" "No." Daniel reached for her hand, wet dish soap and all. "No, I think that's really thoughtful. Thank you." So on Tuesday, Daniel's 9th anniversary to a woman who'd been gone for nearly 3 years, he drove to the cemetery with his girlfriend and his son. They brought flowers, sunflowers, which had been Emily's favorite. Tyler carried them with the seriousness of someone entrusted with a sacred duty. Emily's headstone was simple: her name, her dates, and the words, "Beloved wife, mother, friend." Daniel hadn't been back since the funeral. Coming here hurt too much, made everything too real. But today, with Megan's hand in his and Tyler's small body pressed against his leg, it felt different. Still sad, but not devastating. Like visiting someone you'd loved and lost, rather than reopening a wound that never healed. "Hi, Mommy," Tyler said softly, placing the sunflowers against the headstone. "I brought you flowers. Daddy said they're your favorite. And this is Meg. She lives with us now. She's really nice, and she's teaching me to make sourdough bread, even though it keeps dying. Daddy says you would like her." Megan's hand tightened in Daniel's. He could feel her trying not to cry. "I miss you," Tyler continued, "but I'm okay. Daddy takes good care of me, and Meg helps. And Grandma Susan still makes your special cookies. We're doing okay, Mommy. You don't have to worry about us." Daniel knelt beside his son, placed his own hand on the cool marble. "Hey, Em, I'm sorry I haven't visited. I've been trying to figure out how to live without you, and I think I'm finally starting to get it right. Tyler's amazing. You'd be so proud of him. He's smart and kind and brave, just like you." He took a breath, felt Megan's presence behind him like an anchor. "I met someone," Daniel continued. "Her name's Megan, and she's wonderful. She loves Tyler like he's her own. She makes me laugh. She makes our house feel like a home again. And I think you'd like her. I think you'd be glad that we found her, that we're not alone anymore." Megan knelt beside him, and Daniel watched as she placed her own hand on the headstone. "Hi, Emily. I'm Megan. I know this is weird, me being here, but I wanted you to know that I love them, both of them. and I promise I'll take care of them. I'll never try to replace you. Nobody could. But I'll love them as fiercely as I can. And I'll make sure Tyler always knows about you, always remembers you. You'll always be his mom. I'm the bonus, the extra person who gets to love him too. They stayed for a while, the three of them, sitting in the grass by Emily's grave. Tyler told stories about school. Megan talked about the sourdough starter they'd named Emily in honor of Tyler's mom. Daniel just sat, feeling the weight of the past and the pull of the future, and finding peace in the space between. As they were leaving, Tyler looked back at the headstone. "Bye, Mommy. I love you. I'll come back soon." In the car, Megan said quietly, "Thank you for letting me be part of that. Thank you for wanting to be part of it." Daniel reached for her hand. "Emily would have liked you. Really. You have the same terrible sense of humor." "Hey, my sense of humor is excellent. You laughed at a pun about bread for 5 minutes yesterday." "It was a good pun," Tyler piped up from the back seat. "I think Mommy does like Meg. I can feel it. Is that weird?" "Not weird, buddy," Daniel said. "Not weird at all." The summer continued, marked by small milestones and everyday moments that accumulated into a life. Tyler's 7th birthday party, another dinosaur extravaganza, this time with Megan as co-planner from the start. A vacation to the beach, the three of them, where Tyler learned to boogie board and Megan got catastrophically sunburned despite Daniel's nagging about sunscreen. Quiet evenings on the porch after Tyler was asleep, Daniel and Megan talking about everything and nothing. Work brought its own challenges and victories. Daniel got promoted to senior consultant in August, a raise in recognition that felt validating after years of struggling. Megan landed a major client that had everyone in operations buzzing. They celebrated each other's wins and supported each other through the inevitable setbacks. Susan became a regular fixture at family dinners, her initial sadness about Daniel moving on transforming into genuine affection for Megan. They bonded over gardening, both of them maintaining elaborate vegetable gardens that produced more zucchini than any human family could reasonably consume. "Your mother-in-law brought us more squash," Megan announced one evening, carrying a bag that probably weighed 10 pounds. "Of course she did. I think she's trying to communicate through vegetables." "What's she saying?" "I love you, but also, you're going to eat zucchini until you turn into a zucchini." Life wasn't perfect. Tyler still had occasional fainting episodes that sent Daniel into panic mode until they verified it was just the vasovagal syncope, manageable with hydration and rest. Megan's car died spectacularly in September, requiring replacement and financial juggling. Daniel and Megan had their first real fight in October about whose turn it was to handle Tyler's parent-teacher conference, both of them stressed and snapping at each other before realizing they were arguing about wanting to be more involved, not less. But they worked through it, apologized, learned each other's patterns and triggers, figured out how to be partners in the messy, complicated work of building a life together. By November, Daniel realized with some surprise that he'd been with Megan for almost a year. Not counting the 2 years of friendship and suppressed feelings, but actual together. A whole year of waking up beside her, of building a family, of learning what it meant to love someone after loss. He started thinking about the future, about making things permanent in a way that went beyond shared closets and joint grocery shopping. The thought didn't terrify him the way it might have a year ago. Instead, it felt right, inevitable. The natural next step for people who'd already merged their lives in every way that mattered. He talked to Tyler first, one Saturday morning while Megan was at the farmer's market. "Hey, buddy, can I ask you something important?" Tyler looked up from his Lego construction. "Is it about vegetables?" "Because I already told you I'll eat them. I just need the broccoli to not touch the other food." "Not about vegetables, about Meg." "What about her?" "How would you feel if I asked her to marry us? Not just marry me, but marry both of us. Be part of our family officially." Tyler's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? You're going to ask her?" "I'm thinking about it, but I wanted to make sure you were okay with it first." "Daddy, yes! Ask her. She'll say yes. I know she will. And then we can be a real family." "We're already a real family, T." "I know, but like official, with papers and everything." Tyler abandoned his Legos entirely. Can I help pick the ring? Marcus's dad let his brother help pick his stepmom's ring, and Marcus said it was so cool. Sure, buddy, you can help. They spent the next week ring shopping, a process that involved Tyler providing extremely specific feedback on every option. Too small. Too sparkly. That one looks like a robot eye, which is cool, but probably not for a wedding ring. They finally found one that met Tyler's exacting standards, a simple platinum band with a single diamond, elegant without being ostentatious. That's the one, Tyler declared with absolute certainty. Meg will love it. Daniel hoped his son was right. He'd planned to wait for the perfect moment. Christmas, maybe, or New Year's. But perfect moments, Daniel had learned, were myths. Real life happened in imperfect moments that you chose to make meaningful. The moment chose itself on a random Thursday in late November. They were in conference room B, working late on a project that had proven more complicated than anticipated. It was just past 10 p.m., the office empty except for them and the cleaning crew. Papers covered the table, empty coffee cups multiplied like rabbits, and both of them were running on fumes and determination. Megan was explaining something about workflow optimization, gesturing with her pen, when she stopped mid-sentence and laughed. What? Daniel asked. This. Us. Here. She gestured at the conference room. This is where it all started, where you made that stupid joke about marrying you to survive work together, where I told you I loved you, where everything changed. Daniel looked around the room, seeing it with new eyes. The same table where they'd worked countless late nights, the same window overlooking the city, the same fluorescent lights that somehow made everything look both harsh and dreamlike. She was right. This room had been the site of every major turning point in their relationship. It felt fitting that it should be the site of one more. It wasn't a stupid joke, Daniel said, standing up. What? The joke. About marrying me. It wasn't stupid. He reached into his jacket pocket, felt the small box he'd been carrying for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment. Actually, it was probably the smartest thing I've ever said. Megan's eyes widened as Daniel pulled out the ring box, dropped to one knee in the middle of conference room B, surrounded by spreadsheets and coffee cups and the accumulated debris of their work life. Daniel, Megan Lewis, I have been in love with you since you fought with a bagel and lost. I loved you through 2 years of friendship when I was too scared to admit it. I've loved you through this past year of actually being together. I love how you are with Tyler, how you remembered Emily's favorite flowers, how you make terrible puns and keep trying to grow sourdough even though you're objectively bad at it. I'm getting better. Shh. I'm proposing here. Daniel smiled through the nervous energy making his hands shake. You already live with us. You're already Tyler's bonus mom. You're already the person I want to talk to first thing in the morning and last thing at night. You're already my partner in every way that matters, so I'm asking you to make it official. Marry me. Marry us. Be Tyler's mom and my wife and part of our family forever. Please. He opened the box, revealed the ring that Tyler had helped choose. Tyler approved this one, by the way. He was very specific about his requirements. Megan was crying, full-on sobbing in the way she did when emotions overwhelmed her capacity for words. She nodded, then shook her head, then nodded again. I need actual words, Meg. Is that a yes? Yes, you idiot. Yes, of course, yes. She pulled him up, kissed him hard, then pulled back to look at the ring. Tyler really helped pick this? He rejected approximately 40 other options. This was the only one that met his standards. It's perfect. She held out her hand, shaking, and Daniel slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, catching the fluorescent light and throwing small rainbows across the conference room walls. We're really doing this, Megan whispered. We've been doing this for 3 years. This is just making it official. She kissed him again, and for a moment they just stood there in conference room B, holding each other, the place where a tired father had made a desperate joke and accidentally revealed the truth they'd both been too scared to acknowledge. We should probably go home, Megan said eventually. Tell Tyler. He's going to lose his mind. He's asleep. We told Susan we'd be late. Then we should wake him up. This can't wait until morning. They packed up their things, turned off the lights, and left the office building hand in hand. In the parking garage, under the terrible fluorescent lights that made everyone look half dead, Megan stopped and pulled Daniel into another kiss. I love you, she said. I love you and Tyler and this weird, wonderful life we've built together. I love that we're doing this. Me too. Daniel kissed her forehead. Let's go tell our son. They drove home separately. They'd come in different cars that morning, and Daniel spent the entire drive grinning like an idiot. He called Susan from the car. I proposed, he said when she answered. She said yes. Oh, Daniel, Susan's voice was thick with emotion. I'm so happy for you, for all of you. When? Just now. In the conference room at work. Of course you did. That's very you. She laughed. Emily would be thrilled. You know that, right? I know. And he did. Emily had loved him enough to want him to be happy, even if that happiness came after she was gone. Can you bring Tyler home? I know it's late, but I'll have him there in 15 minutes. This news can't wait until morning. Susan arrived 13 minutes later, Tyler half asleep in his dinosaur pajamas, confused about why he was being transferred homes at 10:45 p.m. on a school night. Is something wrong? He asked, yawning. Nothing's wrong, buddy. Daniel knelt down to his son's level. Actually, something's very right. I have news. Tyler's eyes widened. You asked her? Already? I asked her. And? Megan held up her left hand, showing off the ring. I said yes. Tyler's shriek of joy probably woke the neighbors. He launched himself at Megan, then at Daniel, then at both of them, trying to hug them simultaneously. We're getting married. I'm getting a mom. This is the best day ever. Susan watched from the doorway, tears streaming down her face. I'm going to let you three celebrate. Call me tomorrow with details. After she left, Tyler insisted on examining the ring from every angle, confirming it was indeed the one he'd approved. Then he wanted to know about the proposal, making Daniel and Megan recount every detail. And you were in the conference room? That's so cool. That's where all the important stuff happens. Apparently so, Megan said, smiling. Can I be in the wedding? Like, have a job? Buddy, you're going to have the most important job, Daniel said. You're going to be our best man, or ring bearer, or whatever you want to be. Can I be all of them? Sure. They stayed up until midnight, making lists of people to tell and talking about wedding plans that Tyler had surprisingly strong opinions about. We need dinosaurs. Not like real ones, but decorations. And the cake should be chocolate because vanilla is boring. Eventually, Megan carried a half-asleep Tyler to bed, tucked him in, and spent an extra few minutes just sitting with him, running her fingers through his hair. I'm really glad you're going to be my mom, Tyler mumbled, already drifting off. I'm really glad I get to be your mom, Megan whispered back. She found Daniel in their bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at his own wedding ring from Emily. He'd moved it to his right hand when he started dating Megan, unable to take it off completely, but needing to make space for something new. You okay? Megan asked softly. Yeah, just thinking. He turned the ring absently. I loved her so much. For a long time I thought that was it, that I'd used up my capacity for that kind of love. And then you came along and proved me wrong. Megan sat beside him. It's not wrong to still love her. I know, and I do. I always will. But I love you too, and that doesn't diminish what I had with Emily. Just different. Both real. Both important. He took off Emily's ring, held it in his palm. I think I'm ready to put this away. Not forget it. Not abandon what it meant. Just acknowledge that I'm moving forward. You don't have to do that for me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. For us. Daniel opened his nightstand drawer, placed the ring carefully inside. It'll always be here, part of the story, but it doesn't need to be something I wear anymore. They went to bed that night as an engaged couple, and Daniel fell asleep with Megan's head on his chest and the weight of the future feeling lighter than it had in years. The wedding planning happened fast. They didn't want a long engagement, didn't need an elaborate ceremony, just family and close friends, something meaningful but not overwhelming. They set the date for early spring, March, almost exactly a year after that conference room confession. The ceremony would be small, held at a botanical garden that Tyler insisted had enough plants to make Meg happy. Susan helped with planning, Megan's parents flew in from the West Coast, and Tyler took his role as official helper very seriously. Patricia offered to let them take time off for a honeymoon, but they declined. They'd take a trip later, they said. Right now, they just wanted to be together, the three of them, settling into their new normal. The months leading up to the wedding were busy but joyful. They dealt with the usual wedding stress, guest lists and catering, and the discovery that Tyler had very specific ideas about what constituted acceptable wedding music. Nothing slow, people should be able to dance and at least one dinosaur song. But underneath the logistics, there was a steady current of happiness that made even the annoying parts bearable. Daniel watched Megan and Tyler work on wedding crafts at the kitchen table, heads bent together over construction paper and glitter. He listened to them debate the merits of different color schemes with the seriousness of UN delegates. He saw the way Megan braided Tyler's hair when it got too long, the way Tyler automatically saved her the good seat on the couch, the thousands of small intimacies that marked them as family. This was what he'd been afraid of for so long, letting someone in, risking his heart again, potentially exposing Tyler to loss. But the reality was so much better than the fear. Yes, loving people meant you could lose them, but not loving them meant you lost them anyway, just in a different way. You lost the joy, the connection, the everyday magic of being part of something bigger than yourself. The wedding day arrived with perfect spring weather, sunny, but not hot, with a breeze that made the garden flowers dance. Tyler wore a tiny suit that made him look impossibly grown up, though he refused to part with his dinosaur sneakers. "They're my lucky shoes, Daddy. I need them." Daniel wasn't going to argue with a 7-year-old about footwear on his wedding day. The ceremony was simple. Megan wore a dress the color of champagne, her hair down and wild the way Tyler liked it. Daniel wore his best suit, the navy one that Tyler had once said made him look like a superhero. Their families sat in white chairs arranged in a semicircle, Susan in the front row crying happy tears. Tyler stood between them during the ceremony, holding the rings with the gravity of someone handling nuclear codes. When the officiant asked who gave Megan to be married, Tyler said loudly, "Me and Daddy both." Everyone laughed, and Megan reached down to squeeze Tyler's hand. The vows were personal, written by Daniel and Megan themselves. Daniel went first, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "Megan, you walked into my life on a day when I was barely holding it together, and somehow you made everything better. Not easier. Life is still complicated and messy and full of challenges. But better because I face those challenges with you. You've taught me that hearts can expand rather than break, that loving someone new doesn't erase the people who came before. You've loved my son like he's your own. You've been patient with my fears and brave with your heart. I promise to love you fiercely, to be your partner in everything, and to never again let 2 years pass before telling you how I feel. I love you. I choose you. Today and every day forward." Megan's vows were delivered through tears. "Daniel, I fell in love with you while watching you fight with a bagel. I stayed in love with you through 2 years of friendship, waiting for you to see what I already knew, that we were supposed to be together. You and Tyler have given me the family I always wanted, the home I didn't know I was missing. I promise to love you both, to honor Emily's memory, to be present for the hard moments and the happy ones. I promise to keep trying to grow sourdough even though I'm terrible at it, because you both find my failures entertaining. I promise to be Tyler's mom, not as a replacement, but as an addition. And I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you both know how loved you are. I love you. I choose you. Today and every day forward." Then Tyler, who'd been waiting patiently, said, "Can I say something?" The officiant, charmed, nodded. "Okay." Tyler looked at both of them seriously. "I know I'm little, but I want to promise something too. I promise to be a good son to both of you, and to remember my first mom, because Meg says that's important, and I think she's right. And I promise to eat my vegetables most of the time, and to tell you when I feel weird so I don't faint in scary places, and to love you both forever. Is that okay?" Daniel couldn't speak. Megan was full-on sobbing. The officiant had to take a moment to compose herself. "That's more than okay, buddy," Daniel finally managed. "That's perfect." They exchanged rings, Daniel and Megan, and then Megan surprised everyone by producing a third ring, a simple band for Tyler. "This is a family ring," she explained, kneeling to Tyler's level. "It represents the three of us together. You're not just watching us get married, you're part of this marriage, part of this family. Will you wear this?" Tyler nodded, unable to speak, and held out his hand. Megan slid the ring onto his finger, and Daniel felt his heart break open with so much love he thought he might actually explode. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant said. "And family," she added, looking at Tyler. "You may kiss your bride." Daniel kissed Megan while Tyler made exaggerated gagging noises, and everyone laughed, and it was perfect in its imperfection. The reception was small, held in the garden's greenhouse. They ate good food, danced to music that included one dinosaur song as promised, and gave toasts that ranged from heartfelt to hilarious. Susan spoke about watching Daniel rebuild his life, about how proud Emily would be of the man he'd become and the family he'd built. Megan's father welcomed Daniel and Tyler to their family with genuine warmth. Patricia made a speech about workplace romances that started with "against my better judgment" and ended with "they've restored my faith in love." As the evening wound down, Daniel found himself on the greenhouse patio with Megan, watching Tyler dance with Susan inside. "We did it," Megan said softly. "We did." "Do you feel different, married?" Daniel considered. "Not different, just more settled, like everything finally clicked into place." He pulled her close. "How about you?" "I feel like I've been married to you for years already. This just makes it official." She rested her head on his shoulder. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being brave enough to let me in, for taking a chance on this, for giving me Tyler and a family and a home. For all of it." "Thank you for staying," Daniel said. "For waiting through 2 years of me being an idiot. For loving my son. For making that joke about pizza being a sandwich that made me laugh on my first day. For everything." They stood there as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, and watched through the greenhouse windows as their son danced with his grandmother, laughing and happy and whole. This was it, Daniel thought. This was the life he'd built from the ashes of loss. Not a replacement for what he'd had with Emily, but something new, something beautiful, a second chance that he'd almost been too afraid to take. That night, after the reception ended and they'd gotten Tyler to bed despite his sugar-fueled insistence that he wasn't tired, Daniel and Megan sat in their living room, the same room where Daniel had once sat alone, drinking beer he was too tired to enjoy, wondering how he was going to survive single parenthood. "I was sitting right here," Daniel said, "the night after my first day at Meridian Solutions, the night I met you. And I remember thinking that I just needed to get through it, get through each day, survive. And now? Now I'm not just surviving. I'm living, really living, and it's because of you." Megan kissed him softly. "It's because of both of us. You chose to be brave. You chose to let me in. I just chose to stay." They went to bed that night as a married couple, in a house that was truly a home, with a son sleeping down the hall who had 2 parents who loved him fiercely. And Daniel fell asleep not with the weight of responsibility crushing him, but with the lightness of shared burden, shared joy, shared life. 3 years after losing everything, Daniel Brooks had found everything again. Not the same everything. It would never be the same. Emily would always be part of their story, always loved and remembered, but this new everything was real and true and theirs. Conference Room B, where it had all started with a careless joke and a confession years in the making, was now just a room at work. But it would always be sacred space to Daniel, the place where a tired father stopped hiding behind fear and allowed himself and his son a second chance at love. And that second chance had become the most beautiful thing in his life. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real and fought for and built with intention and hope and the courage to believe that hearts could expand rather than break. That love didn't have limits. That family came in many forms. And that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was say yes to happiness, even when fear told you to run. Daniel had said yes, and it had saved him, all of them.